We are.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Synctank.
Shalom.
Muted.
Straight out the gate. Oh, does he not have sound?
It's a disaster.
Oh no. Well, we could just read. But
Read lips. Get started.
I
with
had
lips.
the mic crossed out, and
There's
now
no end of the censorship of Synctank, apparently.
shit.
Ceaseless.
Do we even hear him before the show started? That's when I was saying to you, Thomas. So I was like, "Hey, is my sound not working?" Because I was like, I thought I saw Andreas talking, but I didn't hear
Yeah,
him.
do we have not heard Andreas's voice in like about a week now?
Right. Yeah. Even before the call. Yeah, you're having problems, man. Are we gonna have to like dip in and dip back or something? What's happening?
He can just
We're gonna have to just run this, I guess.
mime it.
No.
Oh, he's gone. See what you did? You scared him off. That was like an ultra rare Pokemon. I don't know if we're gonna be able to.
All right, Thomas, you're
That's
telling me you've been watching the old. Oh, is he back? He's got,
Is
nope.
it working now?
Hey.
Oh my
Hey.
God. You guys can keep talking about what you were talking about though, because
No. Shalom Aleichem. What were you sharing? You had a tweet for us.
I thought this was bad.
True Social.
This is hardcore. Yeah, like Trump went hardcore. He went like full Shalom Hamas, and so he says Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all the dead bodies of the people you murdered. Or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you were sick and twisted. I'm sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I've just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits you. But not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or they'll be hell to pay later. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Okay.
Wait,
yeah,
is this real? I mean, I believe it's real, but is it?
it's True Social.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's real. That's Truth Social.
Is real.
it is real. Yeah.
Israel.
I saw the headline, just the tweet that said, Trump says he sent Israel everything they need to finish the job. And my reply was, so that's the last payment, right? So they have it all. They have all they need. Is it going to end there? No, probably not.
Dude, I don't think that's...
No, but I guess I didn't realize that was within the context of that screed. So now it looks a little different.
It's hard to keep up at this point. So like, I'm just wondering, like, so I know when the conflict started post October 7th, that Hamas had 3 heads to its organization. They had $11 billion between them. Were 2 taken out? Are they down to like, what is that? What does the leadership of Hamas look like right now? I don't even know.
Michelle,
it's just-
probably.
Excuse my ignorance, because it seems like kind of important. Because it's like we're talking like he's the president of the United States sending a message to Hamas. Well, who are the heads of Hamas? like the people who are like who are running things, like what does it even look like at this
Yeah.
point?
I've heard they're all DEI hires, all the heads of Hamas.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know.
Pretty
It's
sure Hamas
get-
is
I
just
mean-
a boogeyman created by Israel to.
is it like an Al Qaeda type of thing at this point?
Yeah.
Is it what it is? I don't
I
even
think
know.
100%. It always was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an excuse for them to continue their campaign, and so
And for
Wow.
America to keep like supporting it, right? Because otherwise, why would we have a reason to support
right,
it?
you got to have an enemy, and they totally control the enemy, and
Yeah,
it seems obvious. But
I don't know. It seems like one
make
of the
that suggestion, and
big
you just
legitimate criticisms
keep
of,
in trouble.
of Netanyahu is just that that Palestine has only had one election back in 2006. We've discussed this before. Hamas won by 3 points. They've never had another election since. We're all supposed to just assume that this is just like as straightforward as this is their governing body, and that their desires are one with the desires of who's in charge. The Palestinian people, like I don't even know like what access to information do they even have to have like their own informed consent with their own leadership. Like what are we even talking about? It just seems like total madness. So like, and complicity on some weird level. And like I mean I've seen Israelis emphasizing these same points leading like in the months leading up, that there was like an escalation of protests against the Israeli government by Israelis in just the weeks leading up to October 7th. Like things were coming to a head in terms of criticism for Netanyahu's government. So like, and then after that point, people do what they do when they're under attack and it's scary. You got to support the leader. Like we see this happen, but even still, like it's just the amount of people from IDF that dropped out leading up to October 7th is like crazy. It's like 20%, I think it's 1,000 soldiers like left, like in just a few, like at that point, like a few weeks before October 7th. So it was like it's all screwed up. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna find a solution here, at least not on this podcast. But
Well, I mean, it's funny though because they're demanding one. So it seems like Trump's saying like it has to end now. He wants it like over in like this next month or something, or else it's gonna be.
that's the thing that is interesting. Like Trump to me, so seems to be like he's all about. He is the system itself taken to its logical conclusion, and everything is. He's like he's everything. He's just about taking everything to its logical conclusion. So when he comes into the Israel thing, it's like, well, okay, you have an enemy here. Let's crush him. Just got to get him. Go get him. Whereas really, Israel's like, well, no, we want to keep them in this little open air zoo and murder them indiscriminately for months and months. Whereas Trump is just like, let's just move in and put hotels there. So it's like there are two different.
well, isn't it the end of Jarhead? Where you got the sniper, he's got the position, he can take the target out surgically, and then the higher up comes in and he's like, "Nah, we're gonna, basically, I don't know what they actually use. It's like the equivalent of napalm for the Iraq War, right?" But he's like, "No, you should just see. This is gonna blow your mind. We just watch what we're gonna do." And he's like, "No, let me take the shot." He's all emotionally invested in like taking the shot, but really, that was a criticism I heard from RFK that I wasn't hearing from many other people. A while back about all of this was like they should have handled it more surgically. So like using that terminology and like that's not like what are we actually dealing with? That's I'm like who's the head of Hamas? Like who's running things? Like can we take out the people that are like like are they like I think the slogan should have been free Palestine from Hamas and free Israel from Zionism, or at least that's
I tried finding their website, and you couldn't find it. So I went to Wikipedia, and Wikipedia says that this is their official website, but then it brackets their dead links. So there's no, I don't know where you're supposed to find a website of the people. You'd think that they would have some kind of a social outreach if they're trying to collect money to fight against Israel. They must have a website.
I think it's just the homepage of Minneapolis now.
That's the thing. It's like because it's like the CIA doesn't need to even like sweat the small stuff with social media anymore, and it doesn't even matter. So is that what's going on? Is it like literally that anything that isn't the official state now? Sorry, it says my mic volume is super low. Let me see if I can turn that up higher. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this. Yeah,
because you're acclimating. Because you're done. Are you in Santa Cruz right now?
Now you're muted.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly in Santa Cruz. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
right. We don't need.
Or
I
is the
didn't mean
sound-
to dox you. Did I
Is
dox
the sound
you?
is the
Sorry.
sound working now though? Is that
Yeah,
is
it
that-
sounded okay before to me, but maybe other people are saying something else. I don't know.
As long as it's louder. I don't know. I was just thinking that if you're not the official monopoly of violence, then like you said, it creates incentive for the state to be aggressive. So without power over the state, then you turn to being terrorists are non-state actors, right? Non-state violent actors. So that could be anybody. That could really be anybody as long as the state doesn't license it, right?
How about okay, so much of this is convoluted. The university situation is convoluted. Ukraine is convoluted as far as Israel goes. So like in the past, when they've had I forget all the particulars. I had a walkthrough at one point from a close friend of mine who has been following this for years and years and years. Ukraine up in it. The diplomatic issues surrounding Ukraine going back. Like right now, I'm trying to educate myself on what happened, like at least from 2014 onward, when we took out their democratically elected leader. The U.S. basically arranged a coup, celebrated it. Was that's all transparent at this point. If you don't have to dig far to get that. Even if you want to look at like democracy now, they'll all say it. But leaders from Ukraine, generals and such, who had like gnarly war crimes, had sought refuge in Israel. So like Israel has had this like relationship with like the leadership of Ukraine for like a while, where it's like as a safe haven.
I mean, the United States has been run by Ukrainian Jews from New York. What's the difference? I feel like at a certain point, you should expect that they're going to be interested in Israel, New York, and Crimea. That's like their whole.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you hear like it's convoluted because you have people wanting to take these really. They're like, it's real simple, and then they'll just tell you this thing over this very complex, nuanced situation. But they'll say it's really simple, and they'll say whatever they think needs to happen in regards to Israel or into regards to Ukraine. But a lot of times those things are at odds. Just like if you look at the protests on the college campuses, how many college campus students that were like protesting pro-Palestine are also like all about gay rights? So they're literally like gays for Palestine, and it's like, do you know what would happen to you if you were in Palestine and it was known that you were gay? Like if you were like it says they're not treated very well, and it even goes beyond Hamas. It's like literally a cultural divide. So a lot of these things are more like cultural divisions than they are even just political. Like, oh, you belong to this nation, you belong to this nation, and some of that is like completely incompatible. Like they will not reconcile those differences. They're too great. But then you have people in America who want to get behind a cause, and they'd love to just look at it through this lens of equity and just have it be that simple. But unfortunately, it doesn't apply the same way. Like it's just Karpman's triangle, you know what I mean? Where you have to have an oppressor, you have to have the oppressed, and then you have to have the ally, and you're stuck in one of those three positions, and there's nothing else beyond that. And you want to be ally with the right side, and if you're not, then you're not connected to your tribe, and then you feel like you will be an outcast one way or the other, and then you don't want to be ally with the oppressor, right? So it's like it gets so twisted, man.
Well, that's why it's kind of interesting to me that like you saw that the U.S. is cutting CIA directors cutting intelligence sharing with Ukraine, and so to me the idea that Ukraine and Israel and New York, Washington D.C. are so inextricably tied together, then what's going on with this war in the Ukraine, and what are they doing with Russia? Someone was suggesting that it's the new Tartarian Empire, that you've got the West and the East, and the United States is trying to build the Western Hemisphere against the Eastern. And not against, but maybe collectively they understand that they can only control half of the world, and the other half of the world needs to exist. And I think that might be true to some extent. And otherwise, what's been going on is the creation of a new world order that is a singularity. And I don't know if that's the inevitable plan, but that might be provoked by getting everything down to two sides and then one of them winning, right?
Right. It's some twisted sunk cost to get people to the point that they dislike Donald Trump so much that they'll literally be against a peace deal if it's on the table and a real possibility. So like there's a war that's been happening in Ukraine. Wouldn't it be nice if that ended? If you're against that ending to prove some point about we don't want Trump to be the one to help make that deal happen, that's really bad. Like that does not speak well for anybody who's going to be taking that. So if the mineral deal goes through, like Zelensky said yesterday, that he's agreeing to, right? So like that was why he went to that meeting, You know what I mean? That 40-50 minute meeting was specifically like, I mean, there's other factors too, but mainly apparently it was to do this mineral deal. And then Putin comes forward and is like, hey, I'll do the deal if he's not, after he leaves the White House flustered. And then now Zelensky's coming back and saying, hey, I want to do the deal. Like, I just saw that he said that yesterday. So it's like, you know, wouldn't we want to do that? I mean, we're halting the shipment of all of this military aid, but you know, if there is a ceasefire, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, I think they want these assurances that we're like, you need to be assured that this won't happen again. Well, if you finish signing the Minsk agreements, like you went in there, you know, advertising, then when Zelensky was elected on a peace ticket, that was the idea, from my understanding. Maybe somebody more knowledgeable can school me, but it looked like there was like a series of these Minsk agreements, and that we were kind of like getting to a place where things could actually be reconciled. But him threatening to join NATO was a giant threat to Russia, who we made a deal with back in the 90s that we wouldn't move NATO any further. Like, I think that was under Bill Clinton, right? Like, you won't move NATO further to the east. And now we have all these bases. And if you just look at like where our bases were with Cuba, or where their bases were with Cuba, how close that was to Florida, like we're so much closer and there's so many more. And it's just like, you know, how do we respond? Like, it's just this extreme hypocrisy. So, I mean, say what you will about Putin, he can be a dictator, he can be all these things, sure. But at the same time, like, how would we respond to that if it were us? Like, what do you expect, I guess, is what I'm saying. So maybe we could work with that, you know, maybe.
I mean, you kind of made the point that it's kind of like they've made Trump the foe. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today, because Trump has got this kind of a lot of WWE, WWF, and NWO wrestling connections, and this idea of defeating Kamala. It even started out as
right.
defeating a Kamala character, right? There's a super weird.
It's real. It's real. If people don't know about this, they need to know about this. And
Kamala Harris is literally, his last name is Harris, and yeah, everything about it's crazy. But the idea, and he died right before Kamala Harris. But the more sinky thing here is that Trump is a wrestling foe, and what's the value to wrestling? And it seems like more and more bringing the wrestling people into the propaganda circuit, or whatever we're calling the news, because the idea of the world being a wrestling show where there's background drama, and that's the real engagement. We don't even need to see a fight, because you have so much of this Shakespearean drama going on that the fight is really in the words and the emotions that are put into it.
One thing I've thought about a lot, as I mentioned before, I am a big pro wrestling fan, and it's fun to think about philosophically for many reasons, but one of them is the connection between real wrestling and politics. But what I've sort of thought is that maybe the existence of wrestling and everybody watching wrestling is also kind of trained people to see through the political theater a little more, because everybody watches wrestling not because they believe what they're saying, but because they're interested in the background and the behind the scenes stuff.
It's like a men's soap opera, is it not? Like,
yeah,
like you're thinking like Vince McMahon, but we just have honorary McMahon.
I know she's the head of the Department of Education, which is going to be dismantled. So I don't know, whatever. The blending of reality and wrestling is just...
People used to believe wrestling and know how to read before the Department of Education. So I don't know. Maybe we're going back to a kind of.
In the analogy of wrestling, though, there's way more nuance and depth to it. For example, when Ultimate Warrior came out, he was not respected by a lot of the other wrestlers because they saw him as being like all style, no substance. Like he didn't have the actual chops of Greco-Roman wrestling. He didn't know how to do all the specifics. He definitely knew how to put on a show and do the face paint. Like, he got what attracted people at home in the audience and what riled them up. So he was almost seen as this outsider, like, oh, you're not a real fake wrestler like us. Like, we're the
right.
wrestlers. You're a fake.
Yeah.
So I was laughing a second ago because somebody said in the comments that you got a wrestler look to you, Thomas. They're like, you look
I
like
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I've actually
only one of us that does.
But honestly, I would almost see Donald Trump as Ultimate Warrior in this case, where he shows up and all the politicians are like, wait, you're a fake American. Like, I'm a real fake American, not you. Like, there's this weird, different nuance. It's almost like an old money, new money kind of thing.
Dude, have you guys seen Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Mickey Rourke, right?
Right. So, but just like in terms of like what the allegory or whatever it is that you're describing, like as far as like wrestling goes and comparing it to politics, like look at what's happening in that movie. That like you literally have somebody that everybody is going to call fake. They're like, you're the fake wrestler, right? But I'm being a little distracted with the noise that I think is typing or something. But that he's sacrificing himself, right? Doesn't kind of like end where he's almost like in the air, like being crucified.
He's about to have a heart attack, essentially. His heart explode.
Right. But it's like everyone's watching the thing and they're going, oh, fake, fake, fake. But everything is on the line for him in a way that's inconceivable to the audience. Like they don't know, they can't see the other side of this equation, that it on one level it's completely superficial and fake, but at the same time it's just like it's screaming with life and reality in the midst of that. So I think that there's something to be said about that. Like there's a show like
and that Mickey Rourke is in The Wrestler because it's like the Stanley Kubrick movie about the Swiss Hotel. Kind of, there's something particular about Rourke in a Kubrick. Anytime you get Kubrick
you saying Kubrick, but you mean Polanski, right? You're talking about.
Oh my God, you're right. That was a weird Freudian slip and psychological malfunction. But yeah, it was Polanski.
I just looked it up. Actually, Ultimate Warrior made his debut in Trump Tower at WrestleMania 4, which is kind of an interesting.
Gold Robot saying you have a Gold Robot here. I have a sync machine. We're using it to solve money. What does that mean? That sounds
mining
cool. Sounds fun.
All right. Wait, so what you were saying about wrestling? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Alex.
Oh, that was fine. It was that Ultimate Warrior made his debut in Trump Tower at WrestleMania 4.
Really? What?
So
okay, that blows my mind a little bit because this isn't just like a random thought that I just had now. Like I've been linking Ultimate Warrior to Trump since forever.
Interesting. Yeah,
I
know.
never even do that.
I can see it.
Has he gone up against the two towers with Jesse Ventura describing?
That was against with Randy Savage. Against the mega powers versus the twin towers, I think was
right. Yeah, and those twin towers are going to come crumbling down. That whole thing is so prophetic.
He said something like, "I'm going to spin around 42 times, and then tower is going to come down." It's like.
Gonna come crumbling down right there tonight on prime time. Even the way it says on prime.
Well, the guy in the comments just mentioned WWE has been biblical lately, and it's true. John Cena just turned heel for the first time ever, like in 20 years. This is like a seminal moment in wrestling history. Like it's like Hulk Hogan in 1996 when he turned heel on the fans after being the hero. This is John Cena's linked up with The Rock, so. John Cena being JC, he is a Christ kind of figure. He's the eternal baby face, and he's now bad. He killed Cody, who was the new baby face on the block. But anyway, it's The Rock. The Rock has come in. And he's got this character. He's known as the final boss, and he's
well, there's a meme. Sorry, go to the Rock.
No, I don't really have much to say.
I was just thinking about that sync because Cena is always being shown in memes where there's a photo of him and people say that there's no photo. He's not there because John Cena doesn't exist. And John Cena not existing is very American Psycho to me. Also, it's this idea that you might think I exist, you might see my face mask, but I do not exist, right? And so there's something interesting about Cena also because he does the Chinese apology in Chinese and everything he's doing. The Rock similarly. The Rock is such a fake person. It's incredible. It's like not bad. I actually think it's smart. Like, why would you go out and
he's another example
share your honest truth like we do?
He's more real in wrestling on camera on wrestling than he is in any of the movies in any real life. Like
or any cameo interview.
He emanates charisma like no one else. But it's like he can't translate it to movies very well. He just becomes this dork. But so it's kind of interesting that it's kind of like Donald Trump. I don't know. There's just some people thrive in that environment, and maybe Rock needs to get into politics, and that's probably his ultimate goal.
If you like watching, like I saw Bernie Sanders walking out early from the speech, and some reporters like asked him, whatever, what are you going to do or whatever. He's like, he turns around. He only said one thing. He's like, my speech is going to be better. And here it is. Now you're showing us the speech, But like, I'm sorry, like maybe I don't know what I'm looking at. Maybe I'm crazy, but like it just looks to me like him and Elizabeth Warren and all these people, and they're holding the signs and saying Musk is stealing. They look like an auction. First of all, when they're holding those signs, those circular signs, like isn't that just like an auction, like the bidders at an auction? I'm like, what is the symbolism of that? But anyway, it just looks like they're just like screaming to protect their kickbacks. Like I know a lot of people are saying that, but like that's just all it looks like. So I'm just saying this because just the wrestling thing where it's just like there's the topical, we're on a fight, we're doing this whole thing, but it's like, why are you actually doing what you're doing? It just looks like a show. Like they're just putting on this show. It feels so theatrical, and it feels like it's all just to protect their own exposure and their own like gains. Right? Yeah, but now we're at over 22 now, right? It's like 25, I think.
That ain't true. That's what we just heard. Since day one, Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down. They're up. Inflation is getting worse. Prices of grocery, gas, eggs, of essentials. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. Meanwhile,
roll up your sleeves.
Instead,
This is so comforting.
This is overwhelming because it's almost exactly the same speech, and there's actually I've seen like 30 more examples of that. Actually, there was even more.
I think at this point we're at 25. That was the most recent one I've seen, and
So
one was confusing because if you look closely, two of them were the same one. So I was like, I don't know how no one seemed to catch that before they put it out. It even kept repeating 22. But at this point, I'm pretty sure that we are at 25 different identical speeches being put through social media. Somebody had to dig because some of them were only on Facebook. Like not all of them even ended up on Twitter in different places. They were but they were all out there. So in other words, this is a completely scripted thing. I don't know who wrote it, but it seems like nothing I haven't already heard. But how does that work for them? Like, I guess it doesn't matter. Like a lot of people, they just see it and they're just feel it.
It's ironic too, because I mean, maybe this was 10 years, 5 years. Time flies by when you live outside the, just regular time continuums. But I remember when this was Sinclair, everyone was up in arms. I think there was a huge John Oliver show where they showed something where Sinclair Broadcasting gave everyone like a certain script, and you've got like 50 versions of all these newscasters saying the exact same thing over and over and over again. And it was shown as like, look, this is the evil, practices of how mass media can wash you. And then here we just have the exact opposite version of that. So it's, I don't know.
So,
I hate the hypocrisy of that.
I've seen the left rebuttal. They're like, so a coordinated effort to share the same message amongst colleagues on a singular issue is the problem. And I think the answer is it's not a problem. It's simply a conspiracy, right? That's what the literal definition.
Literally a definition of yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, we're all conspiring. So it's just weird. It's just weird. It feels like that Spider-Man meme, with the pointing. Like it's like, what the fuck is?
Also, this might not be trying to prove this point, but this is kind of showing us that AI-generated politicians would not be that much worse or different than what we've got now, where you just, here's the script, generate 50 versions of this, make one, like in this tone and this tone, but it's basically the same thing. They're not doing anything that ChatGPT couldn't have done for us.
That might be related to the whole video. I think it was the Higher Side Chats guy posted that the ventriloquism thing going on in like politics or some. I mean, I think these guys were like space NASA guys. There was like one guy talking, and the other guy looks like he's like mouthing the same. But maybe they're just reading a script. But
I think you usually have like a Kundalini witch somewhere that's doing like some like
meat.
I mean, for real, like a lot of the time you got somebody and then there's someone behind them and they're doing some weird stuff, and they're probably keeping them safe from dark energies or using dark energies to keep them safe from the light, or whatever way you look at that. It feels like pretty clear. I mean, let's not pretend that things are better on either side. I'd like to be like, oh well, the we're winning now. Every day is Christmas because of Trump. I feel like that until I think about it, because you saw earlier the Panama Canal. right? We talked
I was
about
about to, dude. You as soon as you said that, I was like, oh well, whatever you're saying, I'm going to bring up the Panama Canal. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, just BlackRock leads consortium to buy Panama Canal for how many? $23 billion
Right.
for how many
It's
sync heads
actually-
out there that like your numbers? 23.
Right. It's actually ports. I think it's 4 ports that are
Mhm.
connected with the Panama Canal. So if you actually look at the article, it's not necessarily the canal. It's just like, but at the same
ports
time,
in and out. Yeah.
yeah. So this is the reason why you're like, I mean, Bill was saying something to me tonight of like, if everyone got red pilled, what would that be like? And I'm like, we need checks and balances. We can't have it that would turn into its own Philip K. Dick book, right? Like looking at those people all reading the script, like that feels very like PKD like, like where it's like, we might, like you said, Thomas, it might as well be freaking AI. But then at the same time, you're like, well, I don't want a uniparty. Like, I don't want it to just be like, oh, now, we need criticism, but we can't have it just be the I'm allowed to say this now because there was an executive order. Just we don't want it to just be totally retarded. Like we want it to have some substance to it. It's like started this out discussing Israel, and that's like my issue with like a lot of the protesting college students and stuff. It's like I've been critical of Israel since like 2006, 2007. I've been at a point where I can see other sides that in my naivety, when I was, felt like a young activist, I didn't really have the same perspective that I have now. So a lot of the times I'm like over here, like, oh, well, I see such an extreme in this direction. Well, I have to tell you what the other side is. And people might even think because I do that they're like, oh, so you're on that side. And it's like, no, actually, I have a vantage point at this point. Like, I feel that way about politics in general. Like, I think I invite like people that have really been like so invested in the left to see how they're experiencing a Patty Hearst situation where they're just literally being, engineered to side with their kidnappers, but like their perspective is more valuable than people who never even were in the midst of that in their lives. You know what I mean? Like if you just like grew up in middle America or whatever, you never had a reason to like, but if you grew up in like a liberal city, like your input's going to be more valuable than a lot of the people who weren't all invested in it because now you've been disillusioned. So you actually know how the mechanism works, which you could say the same thing about Trump. And that's what Dave Chappelle said about Trump is he's like saying, the guy walks out of the mansion as an allegory, Trump walks out of the mansion and he tells you all the crazy stuff that's going on in there. And you're like, how do you know? He's like, because I was just in there. Like, I know those people, like those are the people you want to listen to, so like a disillusioned Democrat is going to be much more valuable than somebody who's never ever been invested in their ideological framework.
I feel like we need to be more invested in our framework, and I think it also comes back to that word you used earlier because we have progressives, and what would be the opposite of the progressives? Retards. I think
right.
I think it makes ideologically, if you're not a progressive, you should say, well, the retards are working against the progressives, and maybe. Well, I mean, because they're trying to retard progress on purpose because they don't like the idea of where progress is going. Progress is this very, what do you call it? Autocentric. It believes in your own idea is where we're progressing to. You think that where we're headed is progress because it's where you're headed. That's not necessarily my idea of progress. I might not think that litter boxes in classrooms are progress, and maybe we want to slow that kind of progress down. We'd like to retard that kind of progress. I think it's worth it.
Right. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like the Green New Deal. It sounds
we should bring it back. We're bringing it back. We're bringing retard back.
I feel like there's a legitimate reason. There could be a stamp that Trump has, and he just goes through all these previous orders and just like, bam, retarded, right? Because that's literally, he is retarding each one of those different initiatives.
God, I'm so into it. I really want that to happen. That'd be really great. All right. Oh, hold on. This is from Crypto. You posted a Space Ghost. Oh, man, I wanted to bring up Space Ghost randomly because of Gene Hackman and Michelle Treshberg. Yeah, keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's just good sync. Space Ghost dies the same day Blue Ghost lands on the moon, supposedly.
Really?
And that was
I didn't know
that was March 2. So that was the death day of Philip K. Dick anniversary, 43 years since Philip K. Dick died. Yeah, Space Ghost, Blue Ghost, that's kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
Space
also
Ghost, the idea of him as a ghost, that's Crypto K to me.
Also Space Ghost, Superman, Gene Hackman, the whole thing there. This seems like there's
there was a little cluster of stuff that happened with Gene Hackman.
So I actually never watched the Superman movie until the day before he died, or the day before he was announced dead. which is embarrassing for me. I should have seen Superman growing up, but I actually like my friend Superman. If he's not afraid of green rocks, he's been on this show. We were talking about this idea that Superman is Jewish, and it was interesting watching the Superman movie because they show Superman Kal-El Elohim as a baby coming out in the Goyim, Kansas family that find him, see him naked. And this is like American mainstream movie with a naked baby. It's like child pornography level nudity. It's not a big deal, maybe, I guess, but it is weird. And the main thing that you're seeing is that Superman is circumcised baby, which means, you couldn't have had a kryptonite Moyle. It must have been that he was from space already sent circumcised. So they're pushing this idea already of, the diaspora chosen people of God that are like the Ubermensch that are running the world. And then from there, this idea that Gene Hackman's already been dead for several days. It's like a question also, because it's one thing for a 96-year-old man, I think, to be dead, but it's like a 60-year-old woman, his wife, to be dead. Seems very strange as well, right? Like, and then this was the officially suspicious death of the weekend, because Michelle Trachtenberg was totally accepted. They're like, okay, well, we're not going to do an autopsy. And, a lot of Jewish people don't like to have people just cut up in their family members. So you don't just do autopsies if you can avoid it. So it's reasonable to, completely expectable. But it's a wonder that she died. Okay, that was the other thing that was weird. So the day before she died, I had downloaded Eurotrip like a week ago. I was going to watch it. There's been waiting to watch it. I found out she was on Instagram. I followed her on Instagram. She died. She was announced dead the next day. So for me to follow her to die, Gene Hackman to die right after watching Superman for the first time, and me being more and more interested, I just started watching The Conversation, and that's when I found out he was dead. And
Did
so
you watch some Kirk Cameron movies this week, just as an experiment?
People keep asking me. I don't want to do that to Kirk Cameron. I might Tom Hanks though.
Mel Brooks.
And I'm going to do a bunch of Tom Hanks movies just in case, But yeah, Mel Brooks I'd like to keep alive. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to keep him alive. I'm not saying to take him out. I'm sorry, that may come out wrong. I'm just saying if you're doing celebrity death pool, I'd be putting my money on Mel Brooks. No offense.
Yeah, and I understand Thomas just wants Kirk Cameron to go to heaven. He's just a really a religious guy, and
I don't think he even wears seatbelts. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
I want to get into the sync thread here. So, Alex, you're telling me Space Ghost, Blue Ghost, Moon? What are you saying?
Yeah, explain the Blue Ghost.
Blue Ghost was the name of the lander that just landed on the moon. I don't know who launched it. I can't keep
If
track.
I think of Superman, in a sense, he's got that blue outfit. He's like the blue alien, right? Like, it's Big Blue.
Deep Blue.
HAL 9000, Big Blue. No, Big Blue wasn't it? Oh, was it Deep Blue? No, what was
Deep
it? The computer?
The chess computer is Deep Blue.
Oh, it's Deep Blue. Yeah.
And Firefly also. You remember the show Firefly? So Firefly lands on the moon, and Blue Ghost comes out of that. Right?
Yeah. Yes. So
Canceled.
What it was like? I don't know. There's so many damn threads here. I can't even.
Yeah, there's a lot of threads here. So did you know that? I just want to say real quick. You know that Superman theme? I forget exactly how it goes, but from the film Superman that we're talking about with Gene Hackman,
right.
that song, that instrumental, is almost identical to "Thus Spake Zarathustra," or also
really?
Zarathustra, the song from 2001: A Space Odyssey. That dun 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 dun. If you listen to the notes, it's just the duration is different, and there's one note that's there's a slight shift in it, but it's almost verbatim. So if you listen to them back to back, it's unmistakable, just like the the Superman theme and the 2001: A Space Odyssey theme. But
again, of course, because Superman is so Nietzschean. It's the Ubermensch,
that's the thing, right? So both things are dealing with evolution, right? So you have that like Nietzsche's evolution of man, Uber, and also for
what's
Superman,
the guy's name? Gene Hackman. It's Hackman Gene. Like,
wow,
that's a very signal. That's like a sync signal, and that's like kind of my feeling is that humans are the result of a genetic experiment of some kind. So.
I mean, this is not exactly a sync per se, but my favorite, and I think most people should say their favorite Lex Luthor is Rosenbaum, right? Rosenbaum did such a great job in Smallville.
Yeah.
I mean, it really redefined. Well, first off, Rosenbaum means like the skull blossom, right? Because the rose is Rosh from Roshona, like from the Hebrew, but I think it's a Dutch name, but still the idea of the blossoming of the rose is the skull, because when the skull comes out of the womb in your birth, the head pops out and the skull fills properly. So the fact that he plays this bald character, I mean, it seems really interesting to me in a lot of ways, this idea of like the blossoming of the being that is Lex Luthor. And if you look at the original Lex Luthor, he's this sort of, you know, I think Seinfeld says this at some point, like Lex Luthor, if you only, it's like you could do, Kramer, you do so many amazing things. If only you did good instead of evil, you're like Lex Luthor, you know? And Lex Luthor is constantly someone who could be successful. They've changed it now because they wanted to base him on Bezos and Trump and everything else. He's like a CEO executive. But originally he was supposed to be like us, and a real Superman villain, according to like the James Bond category of villains, is supposed to be someone who works against the benefit of the greater society. So someone who feels on the outs of society. And I mean, Gene Hackman's character is living underground under New York Grand Central Station. Isn't that the deal? Except it's Kansas, they're pretending. But he's basically living in the subway system, and he's exploiting free energy, and he's a parasite on the society. And so that's I think the idea also of the parasite versus the Ubermensch, right?
That was also the plot of Blank Man, by the way.
Oh
Yeah.
Don't
Well,
forget Smallville, the glorious Lyle New
Nexium. Oh,
My favorite rendition of all these characters is the cartoon from the 90s, the Justice League, Batman, Superman animate. And that one is played by Clancy Brown, the voice actor. The voice is done by Clancy Brown, who's great. But there's a storyline with him and Brainiac where Brainiac uses Lex Luthor as like an incubation vessel to create him. He basically becomes a chimera of Lex Luthor and Brainiac, and fights the Justice League. And so that's sort of whatever. I don't know. That's it.
Isn't it like the Inglorious Bastards thing, where it's like where Superman came out of was kind of this response to, like the guy, I forget what they called him. It's been a while since I saw Inglorious Bastards, but the dude with the baseball bat who is just like the bear Jew, and going to be the answer to the thing, because the Nazis were after this kind of like, this next level of evolution, like the perfect man. And then like this comic book where he's like, I always thought that he was actually throwing a VW bug in Action Comics #1, but that's not a VW. I feel like at some point we even discussed that, but it feels like it's supposed to be, because it feels like he's throwing this German car, like.
I thought there was another level to this. I could be wrong, but in Germany, what I notice is they'll often talk about how Germans are accused of being Nazis, right? Or like Americans presume that all Germans are essentially Nazis, or whatever. They say, if you don't do this, like we tell you to do this, then you're a Nazi. So you have to go with the flow. You should goose step, or else you're a Nazi. The Germans call that being hit with the Nazi bat.
Oh, right. Which is probably exactly why they did it that way. That's probably the symbolism that
I think it might be connected in a lot of ways. And it's interesting that they're constantly getting hit with the bat. They're like, oh my God, if I don't do this, they're going to hit me with the Nazi bat. And that's been going on since at least Hogan's Heroes, right? It's interesting also because I was talking to some Germans about this and how it shifted. And Nazi was kind of considered incompetent and pathetic in the 60s and 70s. That's why Hogan's Heroes is the way it is. And in the 80s and 90s, particularly after Spielberg, there's a return to this idea of the apex Nazi. That like this is the ultimate cunning force of evil that we're working, and they're so effective. That's really what's terrifying, is they're so effective. But that's not the way it was looked at in the 60s. They're like, obviously they lost because they were so self-absorbed and they couldn't work with each other, right? Or others.
I thought that Hogan's Heroes, before it was released, there was all these Jewish activist groups that were trying to stop the release of that show. And Bob Crane became worried that was going to be it for his whole career. Because like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? But then as soon as the first episode aired, and it was all like, it's a play on Stalag 17. But as soon as the first episode aired, people realized what it was doing and the satire nature of it, and suddenly it was like, oh, this is actually okay. But if somebody was to say, we're making a comedy about a camp, a prison
springtime for Hitler in Germany, how could that possibly work? Right, exactly. William Holden, I think, also from Stalag 17. 17 for Q. There's a lot of syncs right there if you wanted to go that deep. I love Stalag 17. I think it's great.
Aside from Eyes Wide Shut, this is my favorite film of all time, and it has been since I was in elementary school. Yeah.
Wow.
And all big lessons as like a conspiracy theorist are all in that movie. And like it's hard to say without spoiling it. I've seen it 1,000 times, so I don't really care. But like, you know, the idea of who's in charge of security, they're the first people to question. You know, so it's like you're always watching everybody, but who's watching you? You know, and so
I've
like
never even heard of this movie before right now.
It's top. Like I said that this was my favorite movie until at some point in my life I said Eyes Wide Shut was. So
Billy Wilder.
Yeah, absolutely incredible movie with Bloom, you know, also. But yeah, so Wilder also was born in Galicia, is that right? Yeah, interesting. Galicia in Austria-Hungary. So, you know, he grew up with that kind of understanding of what was really going on, not just during, but before the war. But today I was thinking that a lot of the time Americans are post 21st century, like 21st century on, people aren't really associating Germans with Nazis anymore. It's maybe a bit, but more than that, if you had to pick between it, I would say human centipede. I think that the idea of the scary German that is, you know, so obsessed with his own dream, that's an illogical, irrational dream, that's going to mutilate others, that sort of lack of social awareness, that's become kind of the fear that's projected on people.
It wasn't until like recently that like the level of it, because I've known people who came from Germany, and somebody I was close with had kids that they brought over from Germany, and then they were like horrified that they had them pledging allegiance here to the flag, like in school. Like they were like, wait, what?
They're really freaked out by our level of nationalism.
Right.
Yeah.
But then just recently I'm looking at like, I mean, really recently, look at that carnival thing that just happened, and the floats in the carnival with all the swastikas, and you know, Trump represented as Elon or whatever, you know, or Elon was represented Elon, and they had all this kind of like mocking things about America there. But I got kind of confused because I just watched 60 Minutes, where you had these people that are apparently like speaking to and representing what's happening in Germany as far as free speech goes and all this stuff. And they're just like, what they're describing just sounds so dystopian. And then they're like, but they're all about it. And then it's like, and then meanwhile, like, wait, it's okay if you're doing it like this, like a satire. It's like, okay here, I guess. But like what, at which point, like, it's reminding me, speaking of Nietzsche, it's that quote of that if you know, be aware, I'm gonna butcher it, but like, when your focus is on monsters, be aware that you yourself don't become a monster. Like that's like when I see the spray painting of the Teslas and stuff, like that's what I see. I'm like, you're going around spray painting swastikas, and at which point do you like stop and go, hey, like I'm putting a hate symbol here. Like, you know, it's still hate. Hate is hate. You know, killing is killing, whether it's done for profit or fun. Like hate is hate, whatever the case. You know, like in this house.
Unrelated picture, my bad.
Did you know your child should receive?
Oh, that's fine. What's me? That was me vaccine posting.
No, you were just saying like why you don't have kids. I think that's completely reasonable.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, I was just appalled. I'm appalled by that. That's just. I love that it's a little black girl telling me that too. That's.
Oh, that's sad. I don't know. I mean, it's what it is. But yeah, I feel like we're. To be fair, it's the microplastics because it's in that plastic container. That must be what it really is.
I'm sure that's,
what's the syphilis thing that happened with the CDC? The Tuskegee experiments.
Oh, yeah, of course. Right.
That was something in like 2021 that I would hear when people would ask a well-educated Black person why they were like so questioning a vaccination, and they'd be like bringing up the Tuskegee experiment and being like, the CDC was in charge of that. Like it's not something that it's
look at the smile on his freaking face. Oh,
he's so excited,
dude. It's just so screwed up. And look at the microplastics because that's a plastic syringe. I'm just kidding again, but all right. So
can I just point out too, this was just one time. It lasted a few decades.
Just one time. No, there's a lot of examples of this. This was you can't say it's one. What do you mean at one time? What do you mean by that?
We only did the Tuskegee experiment one time. It lasted.
We did all kinds of other experiments.
You're saying it was an enduringly long experiment in Tuskegee, but simultaneously
you were adopted once, and that was the end of it. You know, no, I'm adopted all the time. Like, okay, never mind.
Oh, actually, that's a good point. But like, let's bring up if I go to Grok, let's do the Grok thing really quickly. Have you guys used the new Grok.com or Grok.com is kind of other tragedies by the CDC similar to the Tuskegee study. Let's see if they can put up with something like that. And what I like about Grok is it searches Twitter, and so it's not as many posts as the rest of the internet, but there's a quality to Twitter. And not just new posts, it's all of the old ones. You have leftist content as well. The Guatemala syphilis experiment, 1946 to 1948, led by the PHS, but tied to the CDC. The measles vaccine trials, 1989 to 1991 in Los Angeles. The CDC collaborated with Kaiser Permanente in Los Angeles County. Yeah, this one's a crazy one because this was during this happened while I was a child. Thank the friggin' gods that I wasn't there. But you want to know what's really funny about this? Zagreb, Croatia. Yeah, we're getting like pretty deep when you start to look at how close this got to getting me. Health department to test an experimental high potency Edmondson Zagreb measles vaccine on approximately 1,500 children, predominantly Black and Latino. Technically, I'm Latino. This could have been me, man. I'm telling you. In low income areas, safe. The goal was to boost immunity in population. I was like, luckily, Santa Cruz became a very high income population because of Silicon Valley right around this time. So, all right. But the goals were to boost immunity in population with high measles rates. However, parents were not informed that the vaccine was experimental or that it had shown higher mortality rates in female children in prior international trials.
It's crazy that the vaccine has a mortality rate at all. Like, they act like it does.
And we're not saying it does, America or YouTube. Please just relax. I know we could get another strike over it. I'm just reading the news. Are we allowed to read the news? Or probably not. I'm probably gonna get my channel taken down over this. And I barely care. I really do. Honestly, if I get the day off, it's fine. I'm gonna go to Disneyland.
But I recommend for the swine flu one, for the 76 one, looking at the 60-minute segment on that. Like
that one's crazy.
We don't need to bring it back. We don't have to bring it up necessarily.
Yeah, but oldie but a goodie. No, I'm doing it.
Well, it ends there. That's the guy. That was the head of the CDC. He gets put on the hot chair. He gets caught in a lie big time in the 60 minutes. This is when you had.
Meanwhile, you have an unelected president who's just been put into power because Nixon's had to step down. I mean, you got Rockefeller running the country underneath Ford. This was the craziest. And the propaganda, dude, like the propaganda in 76, the bicentennial that we're looking at is just completely insane. Look at this.
Well,
roll up your sleeve, America. Roll up your sleeve, America. What kind of a wow? That's crazy.
The guy in the person in the chat says vaccines are awful, but couldn't they get the same outcome by putting the shit in our food, water, and air? No, because injecting something is different from eating something. Where our bodies are well capable of filtering out things that we eat, but when we're injected straight into the body, we can't.
Right, you're bypassing every single natural filtration system that your body has to like all these checks and balances to make sure like bad things don't get in. It just bypasses every single one of those.
Could I just eat the heroin? Sorry.
There's also an interesting one, which is the HIV epidemic, because, I'm not even bringing up Fauci. I'm just saying that by the 1990s, tens of thousands had died because they marginalized gay men, Black and Latino populations, and intravenous drug users, with over 100,000 cases reported. I don't think that it's fair to say this is some sort of a conspiracy to spread the HIV virus, mainly because we're on YouTube. Anyway, keep going.
Mainly because we're on YouTube. Well, it's a larger discussion. That BBC documentary of the origins of AIDS is highly recommended. And if you watch that documentary, like you'll feel like it's going one way and that they have one conclusion that they end up drawing. Like it goes, there's like 3 segments to it, and it seems like it just happened naturally this way because they're like following the paper trail and trying to figure out, like based on this book that this guy wrote about the origins of AIDS, and is this have legitimacy or whatever? And it gets this point where they pull out the vial. They found a vial from the time, and they're like, oh look, we don't find ape blood in the vial, therefore this wasn't the thing. And then they go to the location at the end, and then they interview the people who were there on the site, who were there at the time of the vaccinations of that particular tribe. And the people there, they show the row of cages, and they explain that they kept the apes in these cages and they used their blood for the thing, because you need, like, that's why we have things like squalene and these different, you need it to be able to get distributed through the body, and having something organic is like blood, and you're like, well, it's similar enough to humans that it can carry it through the body. But Yeah, I mean,
Oh God, this show's gonna get us in so much trouble. I can't already tell. But
Well,
whatever.
I got a good pivot here. There's a
Wait, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. So just Jeebus the Savior just asked. He said, "Hey, oh by the way, Blake Lemoyne said good luck on the show. We should have him on soon." But Psyche meme. Okay, sorry. Let me repeat that. Jeebus the Savior said, "I miss APM Advanced Philosophy memes on Facebook." Well, there still are 2 Advanced Philosophy memes group. There's actually Psyche meme Grosser APM, which is like the bigger APM group, which has the the psyche aspect to it, and then there's also Tartaria Futura Xirtus Greater APM. So you can definitely find your way back to Advanced Philosophy Memes APM on Facebook. There's a red and a blue pill version of it. Don't feel alone. You can always find your way.
I don't want this episode to get removed. You already had a strike. I'm sorry. Maybe there's other subject matter. Let's talk about celebrities.
Well, we should, but I don't care. I honestly really I can barely care. Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Good pivot here because something I found years ago was that I was looking into July 4th, 1921, which is the day of the Great Party. At the end of The Shining, just like looking at the real life events. And then I sort of expanded the search to that month, July 21. And one of the things, sorry, is that I'm going to take a drink.
Bless you.
God damn it.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Was the debut of a vaccine called the BCG vaccine.
That's right.
That was like July 18th, 21 or something like that. But a BCG is 237.
Oh, right.
So it's the 237 vaccine for tuberculosis debuted in the month, same month as the Great Party of The Shining.
Wasn't in a Clockwork Orange the serum that's used in the Levito technique? Was that that was 114?
Yeah,
so the bomb code in Dr. Strangelove is CRM 114. And then in Back to the Future, in the first one, when he shows up at Doc Brown's house and he turns on the amp as like the camera's going down, he's got it on CRM 114. Like you can see, that's clearly there. So there's like a weird thing there because you're like, well, what is being communicated? What does the serum from A Clockwork Orange have to do with the nuclear bomb code for like in Dr. Strangelove?
It's not even the code. It's what it is the discriminator. It's the decryption device.
Thank you. Right, because the code is keeps on Earth or some version of that.
Right. And there's another one example in Men in Black 3. At the end of that one, which is a time travel story, they go back to the launch of Apollo 11, and at the very end, they're like coming out of a escape hatch or something, and on the wall it's written CRM 114, and that's at the same time that he's like witnessing himself as a kid in this time loop sort of situation.
Can I reiterate that vaccines are good for you, America? Please don't get us in trouble again. Like, what do you want from us? I was also gonna say I wish that YouTube incentivized me caring at all. Okay, keep going.
I think CRM 114 in Fun with Dick and Jane with Jim Carrey.
You know what? F it. Let's keep going. Chester South. Let's talk about Chester Southam. You want to bring up? You want to bring this up? You want to bring in a non-consensual injection of the cancer cells into healthy patients? You remember this one, right? This is a fun story.
There's so many of these. There's so many of these.
1960. Yeah, Dr. Mary's Monkey and the David Ferry and all that. They were grinding up cancerous tumors.
There you go. The non-consensual.
I'm gonna get in trouble. Here's the thing: it's like I was saying this earlier, though. It's annoying how they say you're not allowed to do certain things on the video because they don't want the pharmaceutical companies, essentially, who are the biggest advertisement group, to refuse to use use the platform to advertise. Right. So if you're going directly up against the product that's being sold, I guess is the issue. And this is not just about YouTube. This is like mostly about actual television. Because if you can't sell cigarettes, you can't sell beer anymore, you get to the point where the main thing you can advertise is pharmaceuticals. So for CNN to say that everything in medicine and pharmaceutical companies do is completely safe, except we'll talk to you about it after the commercial break, and the commercial break is 13 different freaking pills that they're trying to sell or products. I mean, where is there going to be any sort of propriety or unbiased?
So what we saw in 2021 and 2022 especially was a point where Pfizer didn't have to advertise in any commercial breaks because the sponsored content was the program itself.
Literally.
Brought to you by Pfizer over and over and over again. And it was like, so, you know, that's a different level of advertising, right? Is when you
Dude,
literally
comic books too. There was a special free edition of the Avengers that got put out, I think in CVS or Walgreens. That anyone that went there, you got a free full comic book, Marvel comic book with all the latest characters. They're in all the movies and everything. And the whole plot was that they were heroes, and you're a hero for doing this, and that the pharmacist is a hero. Like anyone in this comic is a hero. And
24 will be shown to you with a completely 60 minutes with zero commercial breaks, because the entire time they'll be driving Fords.
Ooh, right. Oh, speaking of Superman,
Product placement.
That was Superman 2 had all the Marlboro advertisements. Like the whole final fight scene in that, it's hilarious because it's like everywhere you look, it turns to Marlboro. He's like gets thrown through a freaking billboard. It's like, oh, it's a Marlboro billboard. Oh, it's like it's everywhere. It's like, how much did they pay for that? It was like, it's crazy. Yeah.
Product placement in the show itself. That's a really good point. I think that's kind of the vibe we're going for. My God, I don't know. I mean, can they make a vaccine against CNN? Like that just makes it not work? You think?
Dude, do you know that Jay Bhattacharya looks like, fingers crossed, he's about to get his position as the head of NIH, and he was the writer of the Great Barrington Declaration. I've been a huge fan of that man for a long time. I'm thrilled. I hope to God he gets in there. It's just about as important as RFK Jr. So, you know, if we get rid of the advertising for, you know, these big, you know, corporations to be allowed to sponsor the content as they have been, we should be having more discussions, and we won't have to be so worried on, you know, things like this platform. You know, fingers crossed, if it goes that way, we can actually have, you know, open, full conversations about this stuff. I'm still holding back. You know, like when I go to have
And we're cut off.
and we're cut off. Yeah, but I mean, I can tiptoe, and it's like, and you know what it feels like? It feels like in Pleasantville when Jeff Daniels is like told that he can't paint anymore. He's not allowed to paint, and he's like, and he's in court, and he's like, well, maybe if I just could use some of the colors, you know, or maybe you could tell me which colors I can use, and I'll just use those. Like, you know, it's like, can I just do the thing, you know?
You're all subscribed to like other things in YouTube, right? Like you guys have the Twitter, you know, like just in case. I'm just saying because it could be 2 weeks this time. But all right, okay. No, it's worth it. All right, I'm not saying to stop. I care more about this, and I don't care about that.
I'm questioning right now if we're gonna get punished for me talking about the official that's gonna get through his confirmation hearing to be made into the head of NIH. Like that's how absurd everything is right now. I'm like, am I going to get in trouble for, you know, for citing a paper that all these people from Harvard and Yale and all the prestigious?
I would almost bet money right now that you would. If you pull up a wiki page on all of the non-consensual medical experiments in American history and just read it right off the page, at a certain point, you'd get that little notification.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Well, I mean, let's read from CNN. Trump's NIH pick grilled on research funding cuts and vaccine views in Senate hearing. So Jay Bhattacharya, is that right, is running for the NIH, and it's Trump's pick, right? But he's been grilled because he says, I don't think there's a link. At a Wednesday hearing, a former physician who spent his career touting the safety of vaccines mentioned that an unvaccinated child has died in an ongoing measles outbreak in West Virginia. I've been told that you said that you think we need to invest NIH resources into looking at a possible link between measles vaccines and autism. I've not heard that directly. It's hearsay. Any comment on that, Cassie asked? Senator, it's a tragedy that children would die from vaccine-preventable diseases. I fully support children being vaccinated for diseases like measles that can be prevented from the vaccine efforts, right? I think that's going to be a number of the responses we've been seeing. It's exactly what I think pretty close to what Kennedy said. Bobby said something very similar to that, right?
What do you think about the evolution of the definition of vaccine? Because it seems that the definition of the very word did sort of morph.
Didn't start with castration, right? Originally, I'm not kidding. Wasn't vaccine?
The word itself has to do with cows,
right? I thought it has to do with the castration and the removing of the horns of the bulls.
Yeah,
that's the original. That's the vaccination process of the vacus.
Simply put, yeah. So but there's that, and then there's where it's been, and then there's what it ultimately has become, and so there's a nuance issue, and some people could argue that, you know, that it's not significant enough to warrant that criticism that they had to change the definition to even call it a vaccine. I'm in the camp that that's exactly what happened. But
if they were more honest, they would just call it an antidote. Isn't that kind of what it is? It's an antidote.
Well, they can't call it that. So what happened is
the fact that they use that those words are interchangeable now is like deeply evil. Like it's deceptive.
It's true. It's that 2 + 2 = 5 crap.
So it's like you think vaccine and you hear vaccine and you think cure. It's like,
in order to get emergency use authorization, there couldn't be any other medication that could serve to be a treatment that was, that was a par or worked better than. And so that's why you heard what you did about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and just cutting it off and like, we can't even have this conversation, or even vitamin C. People were getting kicked off of getting strikes from Facebook for just talking about vitamin C in 2020. Like you weren't allowed to talk about vitamin C. It wasn't even like you didn't even have to mention.
And so that's a big change. Is with RFK's statement that everybody like freaked out about. Is like it seems like the change is away from the vaccines are the only possible answer to the problem to here's a variety of solutions. Among them are vaccines. And by the way, we're going to start taking a look at those vaccines, and there's going to be some studies, and we're going to talk about that. So
I feel bad about the one time that the 6th grade class when I was in 5th grade. I'm admitting something now. They were going to march on to the graduation by listening to the graduation song by Vitamin C, and I couldn't handle it anymore, so I dismantled that CD. Let's put it that way. And no one knows that until now. If you know me, that's what happened. That's what happened to the Vitamin C CD. I'm sorry.
I did that with the Jimmy
vitamin C that opens Inherent Vice. Is that what? I don't know.
Yeah, dude. Also, her name is Fitzpatrick. Whatever conspiracy that means to you.
Can? Or what are you talking about? Vitamin C?
Well, in the opening of Inherent Vice, that song, it's called Vitamin C. It's Can.
Oh, by Can. Yeah.
By the can.
That song shows up everywhere. Once you notice it and you start paying attention to it, you'll see like you're like, dude, there's like 50 shows and movies that are just like
it's true.
Yeah.
You guys want to look at a quick link from our dear friend Jake? He's to the Celian channel, put out this Michelle Trachtenberger thing. Let's listen to that.
Passed away yesterday, and today news broke of Gene Hackman's death. Events that happen close in time, such as the deaths of 2 famous actors, often have other synchronistic connections. One of Michelle's most popular films was Harriet the Spy, and we see her holding a magnifying glass on the poster. She is also in Inspector Gadget, the detective and secret agent with a magnifying glass as one of his famous gadgets.
I didn't know that. She was
Go Gadget.
Oh, that's right, the movie. Yeah.
Spanish. But what else could SI stand for? Space Invaders?
Oh, what about that?
She's also in Pete and Pete.
Hello! Finally, there's a detective in the house!
One of Gene Hackman's most popular roles is in The Conversation, where he is a surveillance expert who spies on people.
The tapes always put me to sleep.
His name's Stanley.
Here to be entertained. Here.
In another one of his films, Ants, we see the magnifying glass on the poster and toys for the film.
What is it? It's beautiful.
Which way? Get out of there! Don't you understand? It's for the good of the colony.
What are you saying? We are the colony.
Today, the 27th of February, is Pokemon Day.
Today, February 27, is Pokemon Day.
Wow. The film, Detective Pikachu, also uses the magnifying glass.
That's a twist.
That's
very twisty.
The 1
If you like this kind of material, follow me on Patreon, where we dive deeper into synchronicities like this, and there will also be exclusive content available.
I do love Jake.
I want to have Jake up on again. He's so great to talk to.
We will. He's down. We should definitely set up something soon. I was thinking that he left out Pete and Pete, and there's definitely some magnifying glasses in Pete and Pete. At a certain point, they like light ants on fire. It's a major part of the story. Ants, and so.
Why is she Penny in Inspector Gadget? Because she's the opposite of 99. Because remember, it's Get Smart. So you have Maxwell Smart with Agent 99, right? He's Agent 86, I think. And then and so you have in Inspector Gadget it's Penny because it's 1 out of 99 instead of 99.
I got another good sync on this too. Like right before I joined for our show, I was recording the latest episode of Occult Disney where we cover the movie Bolt. And Bolt is basically also Inspector Gadget, where they've got a supervillain that's represented by cats. Her name is Penny. It's about a dog that has like this extra technology, which is kind of like Brain, but it's told from the perspective of Brain. And then he showed freaking Pikachu, and Pikachu is basically Bolt. Like those are the same exact features that Bolt has.
Also, Pikachu comes from Pokemon. Pokemon's pocket monsters. Pocket monsters come from Nausicaa, and originally it were created by the World Economic Forum and Prince Bernhard for the purpose of showing that mutations and rapid mutations, accelerated mutations, will come from the fall of the industrial society, which is what Marx predicted.
The Valley of the Wind.
Yeah, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. Remember her little pocket monster?
Yeah.
I'll show you. Where's it at? You can go and you can see right here. Let me just change the screen properly. You know, if you remember, she's got that like sky cart thing that she flies around on, and then she's got her little friend who is literally Raichu or Pikachu. It's like a
that's cool.
Pikachu.
That looks like a Mobius piece there. I didn't even. Yeah. Okay.
Where's the little guy? Like a little Pikachu thing. I don't know if I spelled it wrong or something like that.
Snarf. Snarf is the original Pokemon, I think.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. I would go with that. But yeah, just the idea of mutation in the falling and collapse society. Go ahead. Sorry, Alex.
My memory of Michelle Trachtenberg was she's in season 4 of 6 Feet Under. She has a brief thing. She's like a pop star named Celeste. And 6 Feet Under being a show all about death, you know, like people dying young, very young, tragically. So that's kind of an interesting, just little thing. I want to go back to the season and watch, because every episode of that show, if you remember, begins with like a death. You see someone die, and then you get their life, their year, death year, and birth year. And I want to look at like the syncs of the deaths of the episodes with her in it.
She was in a tragically bad movie called Sexy Evil Genius. That was, I mean, the only thing that worked about it were the actors were actually great actors. And Seth Green and Trachtenberg helped produce it so that they could get their money back. And it's basically them in a bar. It's like a one-room play kind of movie. But they were trying to revitalize their careers and do films and make money. So I've been wondering a lot about Seth Green, because Seth Green's relationship, and I was just wondering, when are we going to see, you know, I've seen responses about her death from all of the other celebrities, like the Pete and Pete actor even was talking about how life was so much better before. But I didn't find anything about her. I just saw his pizza party shirt and his like saying happy birthday to his doppelganger true brother. He's saying right here, right? There's something very interesting with that pizza party shirt on Seth Green.
You know that Seth Green's kind of a fan of the sync community, I think, somewhat, because he was in attic expeditions with Andras Jones. And I think he was a guest on Radio 8 Ball at one point, because Jake had made a sync film about Seth Green, and I think he watched it and commented on it and spun the wheel and everything. I have to check, but yeah.
And who was the guy who died? Isaac Cappy. Do you guys remember Isaac Cappy, who accused Seth Green of?
Right. Yeah, in death, that guy just won't let us forget.
Well, right.
I mean,
he's the biggest actor of all time. This guy.
He's probably an absurd liar. How could he?
We're not even dead. He's probably on that island somewhere sipping a martini.
How dare you accuse Seth Green of having Pizzagate connections?
Did he?
Right?
Did he accuse him specifically? He named a lot of people, right? Was it like 50 people or something that he listed, or what?
I don't remember exactly how many people. I do know that I watched some of the videos of him on Periscope when it was a thing, you know, when it was happening live. I remember seeing them. And, you know, he had a whole, let me see if I don't know if it's even worth it, because this is just an alleged thing. We're just going to have fun getting in trouble tonight. I guess that's where we're going with the show tonight.
Oh, is this one of those things we're not allowed either? Yeah,
Isaac Cappy was an actor in Hollywood, and he decided he was going to expose all of the sick things in Hollywood. If you haven't seen my video about Tom Hanks, watch that to get caught up, but I'm going to show you what he said about Seth Green. Unfortunately, Isaac Cappy passed away after forcing himself off a bridge, but he said this.
I'm not suicidal. I'm not suicidal.
Now let's see what he had to say about Seth Green.
At the end of the night, it was me, Seth, and his brother-in-law, and Seth turned to me and opened up the secret bookshelf, and he's like, "This is where we keep the children." And I was like, I tried to just put it out of my mind, but then about a month later, Seth, Claire, and I were having a dinner at their house, and Seth said, "We now need to have a talk about chicken." And I was like, oh god.
Yeah. So I mean, it's probably all a lie, right? Like, what does that guy know? He's dead. He never told the truth.
Although
Yeah.
I would love a secret bookshelf, and I don't know what I would keep in there.
It's
Probably.
true.
I would probably make jokes about children and say all kinds of weird stuff, even if all I had in there.
When they install it, they put the children in the secret room. Like, you don't have any say over what goes in the secret room.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Shit. Yeah.
I think it's good to have a bookshelf as a door, though. That seems cool. Why did we bring up Zac Efron 17 again?
I brought that up. Michelle Trachtenberg's in that. I just brought it up because we were talking about Stalag 17 and 17.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's
There's another movie that sounded very much like the one you just described, Andreas. The one that was like takes place in one room. It's got a bunch of good actors, but it never really took off because like the writing. There's a movie called The Scribbler that was her very last feature-length movie, I believe, and it's based on a comic book, and it's essentially an MK Ultra assassin. It's somebody that has multiple personalities, that has like these extra skills based on these different personalities, which is kind of I don't know.
Do you recommend this? I almost you recommend it?
I do not recommend it. I watched it this week. It's not great. Even if you know going in, I just want to watch it for the weird synchronicities of it. I mean, maybe you want to. I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. Okay. Because I felt that way about mazes and monsters, but then I ended up loving it. So, you never know. I'm just watching this for sync purposes, and then it becomes a guilty pleasure. Next thing that happens. What am I gonna do?
What about Pope Francis? You guys want to talk about him? That seems kind of safe. I mean, like, I know that Protestants are praying for his death. Catholics are praying for his renaissance.
I heard he was intersex. Have you heard this?
What do you ask? What? I heard he was what? Intersex. I mean,
Because
isn't everyone famous? Isn't everyone famous intersex? Isn't that kind of the idea? I wouldn't be surprised at all if a lot of popes and priests.
You could be non-binary. I think everyone's non-binary. It's just some people like to say that they're special because they're what everyone else is already too. So
that would explain Elon Musk. My main concern with him was when I lived in Argentina, I knew kids that were my age, like in their 20s, and they were finding out that their parents had been thrown out of helicopters or killed by the former government, and that they were replaced. Their parents were replaced. That they were given to state approved families. And this was all coming out at that time in like 2012 on 2014, 15. They were realizing this. And a major connection was the alleged involvement of Pope Francis before he was Pope Francis, working to help transfer these kids to Catholic approved and state approved families. So I've always been not super a fan of St. Francis or Pope. I'm sorry. Francis. I like St. Francis. St. Francis is all right. Yeah, we kid Pope. We kid the Francis.
Even though John Paul.
I don't know. Okay, so did they come out with Conclave as like a like they're prepping people for what's going to come out with Pope Francis? Excuse me.
You think so? I haven't seen this yet. Do you want to explain? I might care.
I spoil. I haven't seen it, but I know what happens. Yeah.
You guys care? Anybody care? Close your ears. Go away. We could just drop the amount of viewers. I don't care. Just keep telling us about. Spoil it. Spoil it away.
From my understanding, that's the big reveal is that it's dealing with somebody who's trans in the papacy.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, maybe there is something to that. You think? I mean. What do you think? I mean, is there a problem? They don't let women be.
You know what? I haven't seen it. It's probably a good movie because it's got Ralph Fiennes, and I have a hard time imagining Ralph Fiennes committing to a role that doesn't have some. I was happy to see Nora get the get Best Picture and stuff, but I'm like really over Demi Moore. Sorry, just go to that level, just Oscar talk. But I felt Demi Moore just she stunned in that role with The Substance, and then to give it to the lady who did Nora. Nora's a really good movie, though, I have to admit. And it's not like woke madness, even though people would call her speech such. But I really enjoyed Nora. I thought it was a good movie. Best Picture? I don't know about that, but it's pretty damn good.
What about Ash Wednesday? See, because I was thinking of the Pope and how I noticed today a lot of people putting ashes on their heads. Even in mainstream media, you see celebrity journalists, mainstream now, whatever mainstream means today, the newest version of that. But Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of Lent. And what do you think do you think this relates in some way? Obviously, I think there is some kind of tie into where the world geopolitical stage is going in Lent.
Or do you ever? I mean, I've had a lot of people close to me that like totally like will give major things up for Lent, but I give
I'm
up
Mormon. I don't really have to
Lent.
give up anything for 40 days because, like, you do that the rest of the year. You know, I know that David quit smoking. By the way, can we just a round of applause for David for quitting smoking? I don't know. I'm pretty impressed. It's hard to do.
I think it's been a few months or something, but yeah.
Yeah. See, like that's cooler than Lent. You know, like I think that's the thing. But no, I mean, there's got to be something to that. To me, it seems like
I've been on a running Pope watch with Pope midpoint watch. So just assuming he dies like this day, what is his midpoint if he dies today, etc. So
what's your prediction?
Well, what I have it basically right now, if he dies, the midpoint of his life will be the period of time of the first Ronald Reagan inauguration and the Iranian hostage crisis, and that day ends. So the last time I checked, if he had died yesterday, his midpoint would have been the day the hostages actually set foot back on soil, and it was also the day Super Bowl 15 was played. The Eagles lost, and it was also Alicia Keys was born. And so, but he's not dead yet. So it's like late January 1981 is where we are currently. So Elijah Wood's birthday is coming up on January 28th, 1981. That might be the Pope's midpoint, sort of back on Pope's midpoint, maybe. Who knows?
Elijah. There's something to that for sure. And wood. What kind of wood is it? Hollywood or is it ash? Acacia, maybe. I wanted to share a couple of your syncs that you put up here earlier because we didn't quite finish that one when you were talking, Alex, about the blue ghost. Because between Eagle on Apollo 11 and Firefly's blue ghost, you pointed out that there are 666 months and 42 days between the two.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember that the inauguration of Trump was 666 months after the moon landing, so this was 42 days since the inauguration that this blue ghost thing happened. And
you also had
being fake. I can't.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, completely ridiculous. But you
Why
also
the Earth is always a different size in every picture. But anyway.
Well, you know, I mean, that's reasonable, right? I think. But okay, we're coming up on 237 days since the attempt on Trump's life by a kid born 237 weeks after Stanley Kubrick died. 2003 September. Tomorrow should be interesting. That was just 2 days ago. And remember how crazy yesterday was.
Yes, this is interesting. This whole Richard, go back to that really quick.
Yeah.
That tweet about Richard Simmons. I've read this up like when it happened. This weird, but then I found something else amazing here, which is that. So, I'm just going to read this. 3/4/25 was 420 weeks since the premiere of Missing Richard Simmons, which is a documentary about that Richard Simmons going missing. Thomas Matthew Crooks's midpoint was 2/15/2014, the day Richard Simmons went missing, and then Richard Simmons died on 7/13/24, the same day as Thomas Matthew Crooks, after his attempt on Trump's life. So that's just real,
dude.
Weirdly connect. I don't know what I don't know what the connection is.
Well, you're doing it. You're becoming mighty.
There.
I mean, that might be it. You're doing
maybe
it.
Pauly Shore's involved somehow.
I know. I was just about to say. I was going to throw that in there, man. Yeah.
So
I think that's what prompted me to say, dude Airways, you know, convertible. It's got, you know, bean bags in it. We just stay low, follow the highway, you know.
I mean, I think that was really interesting that this is too far to go, but I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if Pauly Shore made the entire Gene Simmons social media plan, not because he wanted to actually make the movie, but because it's actually enough now just to create a zeitgeist moment. So if you put this idea out there and you make the short and everyone's thinking about it, you've accomplished the goal in such a broad stroke. You don't actually need to. A movie is such a lame idea these days because how many 2 or 3 people go into a movie theater? It's a dark room with a locked door and no one's going to see it anyway. God, the Oscars.
I'll tell you, I would like to see that movie, but I will also say that short is like emotionally triggering for me. Like, it's so good. It's so good. Like,
love you, Bikini.
You know,
thank you.
And that transference, you know, whatever. Yeah.
I thought it was incredible. It's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if he hadn't actually planned on making the movie. Although he did sound like he was serious. That's why I'm saying this sounds like kind of a ridiculous thought. But you don't need to do anything anymore once you've done the social media. The social media is actually enough now. I'm still annoyed. I think that the substance didn't win. I think that's kind of my point. Also, what about, okay, so Adam, this is not interesting to anyone but me maybe, but Adam Sandler and Conan O'Brien as Zelensky and Trump. Did you get that idea? Because Orange Man bad, right? So like Orange Man bad, and then he's complaining about the outfit of this dude in a wrestling outfit, which someone suggested was far more like the Pittsburgh guy. What's his name again? You know, the bald, tall senator, congressman guy who never wears a suit. Fetterman. It's like a Fetterman reference with Adam Sandler as well, but I wondered about that to some extent. Like, what does that even mean to go to the Oscars anymore? And this idea of the suit. Why is the suit so important? Because the suit's the symbol of a slave. It's a symbol of a Slav. You wear the cut tails. You wear the cravat. You wear the tie. It shows that you're a waiter. You're the one who's managing over the other servants for the master, right? Like that seems like an important move recently towards the suit. We were really deviating away from the suit up until recently.
Huh. Yeah, no, I mean, it's everything happens so fast. I'm having debates with people around that, and then it just seems like these things are already happening. He's agreed to the mineral deal yesterday. I don't know, like, and if he doesn't, then we have a deal with Russia, which is what Putin responded with after the meeting was like, hey, and then either way, it's going to make liberal blood boil, because if we go with Russia, then we knew it. See, he's Putin's puppet. And then if he goes with Zelensky, then that's also triggering, because it's part of a peace process, and us working with Ukraine in another way other than just supplying money for war, right? So it's helping them establish themselves in certain ways. So on the global stage, you know, like it's a dignifying thing for us to do that deal with them. So it's like but it's Trump. And if Biden had done it, Biden said we're doing a mineral deal, we get to celebrate, pull out the sparklers. But I don't know what's going to.
We have to work against the coalition that we've created, the CIA has created. So this idea that you saw Trudeau's speech earlier today, right? This was kind of funny.
So today, the United States
it's the first minute
launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally.
It's like he's like, America cheated on us. He's like so upset.
The closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator.
Ooh.
Make that make sense.
Oh, I love that so much. Make that make sense. He's so pissed. He's like about to retire pissed. He's like, it's like his last month before he graduates from high school level. I don't care anymore. Pissed. You know what I mean?
I could have sworn a couple months ago or something he said he was stepping down and out. Like he literally said that.
Every few months they say he's done. It's over.
Is that just how he gets people to settle down? Is like, hey, I'm leaving, but then he doesn't? Is that like
Kathleen Kennedy level trolling right there? Yeah.
But they got a 25% retaliatory tariff, right? Mexico hasn't given their percentage for what retaliatory tariff.
It doesn't really matter, because whatever you do, Trump will retaliate with more tariffs equivalent to those tariffs, he said. So if it's 20 right now and they add 25, then it will be 55 America will induce against Canada. If Canada's 100%, he'll do 100% back. Then it'll be 120% tariffs. So no matter what he does, all he can do is cause more problems, and that's the only thing that can then happen is to create some sort of an alternative to the American order in the West, which there already exists in a lot of ways. Because if America decides to not work with Canada, well, Canada and Britain are already showing, Britain then is already showing that they're going to work towards this new Western deal that excludes the United States. Will that work? Clearly not. We're paying for 80%, 90% of everything, of NATO, etc. There's no way for it to exist without it.
China's suing. That's a different strategy.
I haven't seen that.
There's like a Chinese massive lawsuit or whatever about the tariffs. So I don't even that's a different angle. I'm trying to make sense of all this stuff. So it's like this is on one level, it's just an investment into the future of America to strengthen our own economy by having jobs in manufacturing jobs in America. But that doesn't seem like that's actually the bigger
China's just ready to fight any type of war with the U.S. to end as Trump's additional 10% tariffs to the end. They want to fight with the U.S. to the end.
This is the headline. I need more than a headline, but yeah, I hear
Fair. I know. Yeah. Okay. China's U.S. embassy in the U.S. issued a warning that the country was ready for a trade war or any other type of war with the United States following Trump's additional 10% tariffs imposed on the country Tuesday. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shot back, saying the U.S. is prepared for a war with China. I don't know how far you want to go with that, but I don't see a war immediately. But I think we all think inevitably, especially if you just watch Star Trek or anything else, it's always, there's always that Asian bloc thing. It's that risk game that's intended to come. I mean, what I'm wondering is when we get televised hangings, when do we get like the treason war? I mean, seriously, because isn't that a major part of every disclosed futurism propaganda? It's not
is that a
it.
real quote from Hillary about the nooses that I've heard so many times? Is that a real? Do you know what I'm talking about? And she says they're going to get the nooses or whatever from years ago. You don't know what that doesn't ring a bell.
Let's do a snap. False, technically, according to
False.
Snopes. If we believe in Snopes, who knows? Did Hillary say that if Trump won, we're all going to get to hang?
I figured it was false. I shouldn't even have brought it up, but I wonder how they argue that it's false. I don't know.
Good to check. Yeah, I mean, if that effing he wins, I don't think she's going to say that. Yeah.
But okay, because you're looking at a meme. Sometimes they'll be like, "Well, this actually isn't a picture of her; it's an AI picture of her." So yeah, I don't know. But
2016 though, fake news posted on an obscure website.
Fake news. That's fake news. Yeah.
There's in the chat. There's a couple of links from tweets of mine.
Let me pull this up here. So here you've got 1978.
Okay, that's just a link.
Keep it syncing.
Do you want me to go back a page here, like with some more earlier links that
this is fine. No, this is good. Well, this is just one. There's the other one's about. This is about Zelensky. This is about Hackman. Gene Hackman's midpoint. I think, and it's good to bring up,
right?
My brand or whatever. Gene Hackman's midpoint turned out to be, because there's all this confusion. When was he dead? They announced him, but it turned out that.
So you need to let listeners know, because maybe not everyone realizes that when you say midpoint, in this case, you're talking about the middle point, the exact day between his birth and his death, right?
Exactly.
What happened?
Whatever day was the midpoint of Gene Hackman's life, and it comes to the cusp of August 9th and 10th, and I like August 10th. It's the day the son of Sam was arrested.
And right, August 9th was the day that Sharon Tate was killed. So, and the grand opening of the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland, same year too.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, this is 77. It's a different year, but it's the same day. It's also the same day the Wizard of Oz premiered too, August 10th. So, but it's also, I mean, turning back to what we had earlier, it's the debut of Hulk Hogan. It's actually Terry Bollea. He didn't start out as Hulk Hogan. He started out as Terry Bollea. But that was his pro wrestling debut, the Gene Hackman midpoint. So that's kind of interesting.
19 and 19. And then also you have this.
And this one is on Zelensky. His birthday is the midpoint between the birth of Emmanuel Sainier, who was Roman Polanski's wife, the birth of her in 666 to the day of her wedding to Roman Polanski, on which day she was 23 years, 70 days old exactly. So the midpoint of that is
for real. It's a birth of Zelensky. No way.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like I don't know. He comes.
How did you figure that out? That's insane.
I honestly can't remember.
He's got his sources, man.
Dude, you're blowing my mind right now. That's got crazy implications. Like,
tell me what you think the implications of that are. I would like.
Well, for one thing, immediately I'm thinking of so Polanski, right? He escaped the Warsaw Ghetto. The Holocaust, right? Like he's the only known, Hollywood person, like director, that experienced that. But Poland is who Elon Musk sold the terminals for Starlink so that Ukraine could even have communication that was encrypted while fighting this war. Like, there's a question, if it wasn't for Elon Musk, would we even be talking about Ukraine having any kind of footing in any of this? Like, you have to have a comm system, especially with encryption, if you're going to be doing what they're doing. So, like, that's the weird. I don't know. And then people freak out because they're like, he even suggested he could pull that. Is like everyone's relying on it, but it's like he gave that to them in the first place as the owner of a private company, and it brings up all of these issues. So people would argue, like, I don't know, it's so twisted. But I'm just thinking to myself that I'm immediately going to like Poland and Elon and Starlink in regards to what you're showing with the
Poland. I mean, the history of Poland is so. I don't know. There's something in the Polish intelligence. I don't know what it is. I've never even heard about it, but I feel like But Jerzy Kaczynski, I think, is probably one of those. There's something. I mean, that's how World War II started, was the invasion of Poland, and so there's.
Also, West Ukraine is run by the Polshuks, which I keep bringing up. Is that a lot of people don't remember that about Ukraine? Is it's got like multiple ethnic groups, and the Polshuks are the main former ethnicity that ran the Ukraine originally when they were a Polish state, right?
And who else has a big Polish connection is David Lynch, who just his death has like inaugurated the year and this whole era.
Also, Polish intelligence sounds like the beginning of a really good joke. I just want to say, but
well, that's the thing, is that the Polish jokes were the ones that were like somehow the most racially acceptable jokes for the longest time, which is how you know that the Jews really run comedy.
Right. My favorite show is The Wire, and there's a character in the second season. It's all about the docks, the dock workers, and they're all Polish guys, and they use throw the P word around a lot. I probably shouldn't, but the guy's name is Sabatka, and that's a sync for me, really, because Stanley Kubrick's second wife was named Ruth Sabatka, and then Sabatka is actually a Polish word for name derived from the word for Saturday, or Saturn's day. So yeah, that's a lot of connections.
And Jackson Pollock. Just kidding.
Oh, right. Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, that movie, dude. Oh, keep going.
I gotta say though, like, because we were talking about Gene Hackman before, that like The Firm, like I rewatched The Firm recently, and like that movie is like, you can like there's a lot of films that you can equate with like, oh, Kubrick took from here, took from there, but like there's a strong resonance between The Firm and Eyes Wide Shut, and not just because they both have Tom Cruise starring in them, but because of the nature of the particulars around the conspiracies in each one and Tom Cruise's role. Even like the piano treatment in The Firm has this strange resonance with Eyes Wide Shut. It's just like if you
the poster, everything about it.
Like look at the two pillars in the poster and the way that he's like between them, and also the right eye and the way that of the opposite of the Eyes Wide Shut poster, where Alice is looking with the singular eye from the mirror. You know what I mean? Like there's like it's a strange attract, I guess.
You could overlay those posters, the Eyes Wide Shut poster, with that. I like to overlay posters and get the thing.
Totally.
I want to point out that in the chat, not sure made a comment, blank ski. I don't know what he's getting at, but that's something that like we didn't really talk about on our hot tub time machine thing, is the prevalence of skiing, the whole skiing as a motif, and like is that like a Polanski reference somehow?
You got a couple more skis in there too. I can't remember what they were.
All the ski movies. I like that.
That was a good talk, by the way. I feel like I want to take that talk that we had and make like a video representation of it. It feels like a lot of, at least sections of it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, was a lot of fun.
Recently too.
Who did I talk to?
Noah Campbell.
Yeah, Noah Campbell. Yeah, we talked about the astrology, Stanley Kubrick's birth chart, and also like the synastry between him and Paul Thomas Anderson, and it was a good talk.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are all checking this out. If you like this show, throughout the week you can check out more of our content from each other. I mean, Paranoid American will bring up a second, but also Cryptokubrology's got a Substack. You go to cryptokubrology.com, and that's what we're talking about right now. He does a lot of conversations all of a sudden. He's done some pretty incredible sync work. Obviously you hear about it every time, but he's been doing these sort of like, I would call them podcasts. They're like more traditional style podcasts where they're just like voice audio recordings, right?
Yeah, just one-on-one, not live, not streaming, just conversations one-on-one for me.
Maybe you want to like kind of like give the audience like an idea of like what they can expect to find, right?
Yeah, well, it's called We Don't Talk About Crypto K, and it's just basically the premise, the reason for it is because basically the past 10 years I've been working on Crypto K. I've been working with my friend Sean, and it's just been me going back and forth, like talking in emails and stuff. But he's in the hospital now, and he can't really work on any of this stuff. So I don't have anybody to talk to anymore. So I kind of started this to say like, I'm going to start talking to everybody I know about, and sort of just trying to sneak my brain full of Crypto K syncs and stuff into the conversations. And so
RGZ, you're kicked out. What? No, I don't. No, I get the whole Slavic nose thing, but no, I'm not short or angry. I mean, not usually, I guess.
think it's because you're like particularly today, like just like what's with today. You have a kind of a Zelensky look to you today.
Really? Does he have like the? I feel like I've got more of a goatee than the man does, but I could be wrong. I get a very Latin thing if I let the hair grow just slightly. It kind of
I'd say
ruins the
French,
Slavic.
but whatever.
Thanks, girl.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You're not asking anybody for money, so you don't have to wear a suit. You know, if you're not
Dude.
asking for money, you don't have to
I'm
wear
not
a
asking
suit.
anybody for money except for all of you people watching the show right now. Send me all of your money. Melt down your jewelry, please do. But other than that, no. I don't care if you send it. I won't say thank you. I'm not. I am like.
If it's sending it to you, it's going to get to you though. It's not going to get laundered 100 billion along the way. It's going to go to you.
Actually,
right?
ironically, one time someone sent me money when I was in Dresden, and I did use it to launder my clothing. So I have laundered with your money, and I will do it again. So feel free to send me money if you want to see it laundered.
I love it, dude. I'm sorry to get just political, but like the way that like I keep seeing people when you talk about the 100 billion. And they're like, they're like, no, that was spent in the U.S. I'm like, for propaganda. What did $100 billion for Ukraine that was spent in the U.S.? Is that just for messaging? Do flags cost a lot of money? Like, I'm asking these questions, and I'm like, I think we need an audit, you know. But it's funny to me that like people will say that is a talking point. They're like, that is a right-wing talking point. The missing 100 billion, and then you're like, dude, there is a clip in English of Zelensky saying that they can't account for the missing 100. Like for $100 billion of all that money, that's like, you know,
and of materials that came from that. So that was another thing. I wanted to remember the name of who's the guy. So I have a friend of mine who works in security down in Texas. He's a Mexican naturalized American citizen, and I met him through Timcast. I can't remember his name right now. I was talking to him literally a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that one of the things they noticed at the border now is they've accelerated the cartel weapons, which is one of the reasons they're calling them terrorists, is because they have a huge amount of weapons that came from the United States military, which were clearly given to Ukraine. So maybe like half of the stuff in the Ukraine's going, and a lot of it seems like the Ukrainians are washing, or not the Ukrainians, but yeah, somehow the money going from the United States to the Ukraine is being laundered, washed, turned into crypto, returned back to earmarked American business or political,
right. To go with a lot of the narratives I'm seeing from just in general, and I'm going to just say be partisan. Like I'm seeing narratives from the left, like they several of them indicate you have to accept that Zelensky's lying in order for them to work. The missing 100 billion is one of those. Yeah, he has to be lying about that. If they're saying that that's not the case, if it's not missing, it's just whatever. It's like, well, that's what he said. And I keep coming. Oh yeah, and also like I was saying about the mineral deal, it's like people are like, no, he said no to the mineral deal. And it's like, no, he just said yes, please to the deal. So it's like it's just everything. So is he lying? Like in all these cases, you're like, no, that's not what it is. And it's like, well, is he just doing all these people a disservice by saying one thing so that they have to say something else? Because I've seen that happen before with Trump supporters in the past. So like that's like the weird level where it's like, no, he didn't say that, and you're like, well, actually, here he is saying it, you know. And then so a lot of the time it's like clips out of context or whatever. I get that, but like at the same time, it's like sometimes you just have to be like, okay, did the person say it or didn't they? You know.
This is I think a side effect of that Trump dynamic we talked about before, where he does things that are so extreme. He brings things to like their farthest logical conclusion that it forces you to actually like crap or get off the pot in a way, right? So the same way where the news media is not used to having an update every 15-20 minutes with drastic different ideas. The same thing happened with Zelensky, where he shows up and he's like, I know how this media circus works. And it didn't turn out the way that he wanted. And within less than 24 hours, he's apologizing. He's saying the exact opposite thing, as all these media agencies are just now finally putting out their like long, spent all night working about how that didn't go. And, you know, Trump looked like this. And now all that gets invalidated. Like all of yesterday's work is out the window.
Right.
Yeah, well,
that's
also
why you got to
The thing is, like, I mean, Trump keeps talking about the people dying over there, and it's not just Ukrainians or Russians. It's like the craziest people and the innocent North Koreans who are being drafted and conscripted and forced to fight, and thousands are dying, which is just tragic. But you heard that there was China, the war effort, they said they're willing to have any sort of conflict, any sort of battle that they need to have. And then apparently, I don't know, I haven't confirmed this yet, but South Korea may have just accidentally dropped a bomb, quote unquote, on North Korea while China's been threatening to go to war. Here's this, North Korea aggressively targeting crypto industries from last year, and I just saw, where was this? North Korea's Kim Yo-jong accuses Trump administration of stepping up provocations, right? And so this is something because the amount of soldiers that they're getting from North Korea, this might lead directly. I mean, when we're talking about the conflicts that could lead to worldwide conflicts, this is it. This is how they are tied together. China to North Korea, South Korea to the United States, Ukraine. I mean, we're going to see literally Koreans fighting in Ukraine against each other. That's where it's at. South Koreans versus North Koreans in the Ukraine. That's what's going to be left pretty soon. Yeah. And North Korea sent thousands of additional troops to Russia. Maybe 35 additional soldiers were just sent. So I don't know. Crazy.
We're coming up on March 7th, which is the Kubrick death anniversary. It's also the MH370 disappearance and whatever. But what was I going to say about that?
That was the Malaysian flight you're talking about?
Yeah, the one that disappeared. It was also March 7th, or maybe that was March 8th. But but on March 7th, Trump is going to have this digital asset summit at the White House. And I don't know what they're going to do exactly, but they're bringing all the crypto heads in, the heads of the 5 crypto families basically are coming in to meet with Trump at the White House on 3/7, and they're going to probably announce some big thing. And that's part of the trade war. That's part of the economic picture. And
the end of the dollar or the ruble is the replacing of it all with this cryptocurrency. I don't know. Do you think that cryptocurrency is designed to collapse with the quantum computer programming in 5 years? Where are we at? 2025? Like 5 years from now, isn't that kind of be the end of Bitcoin?
I don't think so.
4 years from now, crash 29. No,
I don't think Bitcoin's going to be wrecked by quantum computing. I think that's overblown.
You don't think that it's going to be phased out into something that's similar enough, but not actually that anymore?
I mean, that's what everybody says. Why is it? But is
that what everybody says? I don't really know.
Well, it's something you hear a lot. Like, why won't they just make a better Bitcoin? And it's just like, well, they won't, because it's like making a better gold. You can't like make something that has those properties exactly and make it scarce, because like the whole point of it is that it's a digital scarcity. And so if you can recreate a digital scarcity, then it's not a scarcity at all. So there is a reckoning coming where I think where crypto and Bitcoin get, because Bitcoin is I kind of get the feeling that they're going to come in there and say, we're buying Bitcoin. We're not going to buy Ripple. We're not going to buy Cardano. We're not buying Ethereum. We're not going to buy the shit coins. We're buying Bitcoin for the strategic reserve.
This whole conversation that we're having in terms of digital currency couldn't it seems like at any point nothing's solid enough with it that they couldn't be.
That's my concern. You heard about Willow, right? Which aspirin comes from because of headaches. So Google creates a quantum computer called Willow. You can read all about it from the Google blog, and the idea that it can break blockchain with quantum already achieved, perhaps. Now we have registrars, we have records. It's going to be difficult for one system to be able to corrupt Bitcoin, but it could be done in parallel to many Bitcoin chains and wallets in maybe 4 years. And I think 27 to 29, the crash of 29 does seem plausible to me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there definitely will be crashes and stuff, but like crypto itself will, I think a lot of crypto will just die, just go with
for sure. But even the Bitcoin blockchain.
Well, I don't think it will, but I don't think it can be overturned in the way that you think it will.
Passwords are dead as of today, right? You saw that they're getting rid of 2FA, and that they're, Google's trying to remove. There's the password is dead. There's no way to use passwords anymore. AI has already beat them. So what you have is blockchain. Blockchain is the only security that is functional right now, and it's not going to last forever. How long can it last, right? That's a real question.
Can the idea
adapt? Well, I mean, it can adapt is the other thing. Like if processing power or things get, but then the difficult adjustment can be adjusted. So that's the thing that's another.
But isn't blockchain transparent? Isn't that like it's
the algorithm of
it's value against us, but it's value for the government? So like we've discussed this, but like. I from the sound of it, I would like, correct me if I'm wrong, and I very well might be. Like I'm always open to that, but it's just like that suggestion of putting the United States budget on blockchain suggesting that would make it accessible to anybody to just look at what everything's being spent on directly? Isn't that how that works? Because I thought the argument was that by us using it and not doing that with the government was that the government could look at all of our expenditures, and that's the fear that people have, kind of this dystopian thing where it's like, oh, they know everything we're spending money on, and then when you have like carbon tax stuff and, oh, how much carbon are you using? Are you using this thing or that thing? You know, like, I get those fears, but like, isn't the idea of that we would turn that same fear upon the government, that it's like, oh, you want to be able to analyze our goings on, shouldn't we be able to analyze your goings on? Isn't that kind of like, at least idealistically, like what would be positive about what's happening with Doge right now is that would be this accountability that comes with the audit.
Like, there's this whole thing, like you keep saying blockchain, and it's like the real deal. It depends which blockchain. Blockchain is just a word. It's just kind of this hype word for a decentralized database, but like, every crypto is not actually, it's decentralized in name only. They're all centralized, run by pre-mined supply, distributed to insiders. I mean, this is true of all of them except Bitcoin, which is like had a free mine and it's just had a free launch. And so there's just like categorically they're different things. And like the idea of putting the public thing on a blockchain is, I think it's a good idea. Like, but the security theoretically, like, and the to the transparency, that is a good thing. But I think people should focus on Bitcoin in the sense that, because it's like the internet itself. There's only one internet. Like, there's not a bunch of different internets that we use to send
They
emails.
exist. There are multiple internets. We could be using other internets. The thing that concerns me is just like the people and the presidents. And you've heard the Jack Dorsey conspiracy about Bitcoin recently, right? The fact that he's so close to the center that he might even be the one who created it, or someone who.
Yeah, I heard it.
It blows my mind a bit. I don't know.
Believe it, but
I believe in your synchronicity research far more than Sean Murray's, but still, Jack Dorsey says Jack Dorsey was one of the 1,300 confirmed cypherpunks in 1996. He wore an Adam Black t-shirt in the UMR yearbook. UMR students were called miners. Was a comp sci and math major with an interest in crypto. Member of ACM in 1997 to at least 99. Created academic paper submissions, and review software for Mirror Digital Publishing, known to use OpenBSD, Windows, Mac, Linux. Confirmed to code in C, Python, Java, Perl, PHP, OCaml, JoeCaml, Lisp, Object and more. Still on the Cypherpunk mailing list in 2000. Wrote a manifesto about the making a mark and leaving it traced in 2001. Subscribed to the Cryptome. Made a blog post where he jokingly says he's working on a network for some drug traffickers. Posted a bio in 2003 saying he's into crypto. Pseudonyms, 4 a.m. hacks, and more. Man, at very least, it's all surrounding his dream. 2003 is in ending dependence on the U.S. dollar, barter network. Started calling himself Jack instead of Jack. Remember Jack, like the pseudonym, but for also like the Jack wallet. He's a sailor. Jack's a sailor. Tweeted on 08. Around the horn and home again, for that's the sailor's way. Bitcoin.org was registered the next day. That's the very next day. Jack's Twitter profile from September 7th, January 9th. Said he was a sailor. The original Bitcoin source code included an old sailor's adage, never go to sea with 2 chronometers. Take 1 or 3. Right? The original block is all this stuff.
I just like the fact that he walked around. He goes to the Super Bowl with a Satoshi Nakamoto t-shirt, so he's just got his name on it as he's walking around saying it's me, but I don't believe that. I don't believe it.
Revelation of the method. Yeah,
I mean, because it's like, who would believe it and who would care? Because he's so powerful. Then it's like certain people know it. Obviously,
he was part of the team. Maybe
is that dissimilar from that idea that the I forget the guy's name who started 8chan or who ran 8chan, that he was actually Q because then, of course, in order to have this kind of account, be able to pinpoint exactly the same guy. That's who we're talking about.
The same guy directed the movie that pointed that out. Then did one about Satoshi. So he was kind of like.
Thank you. I was like, "What the hell are you saying?" I thought that we were talking about like an Alex Jones is also the Pix kind of thing. But okay,
we are all the same guy. It's kind of crazy. But.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like we're headed towards everyone adapting Bitcoin, and it's already been used generally everywhere. But that it seems inevitable because I don't know. In terms of syncs, you have the 07 to 08 Occupy, and you also have the Federal Reserve creation 1907-08. Right? You have the 2012. You have the 1912. Titanic and the repeat. You have the 1919 influenza. You have the 2019 influenza, and so you just look at all these syncs. It just seems like too many syncs. What leads next is the crash of 29. It just seems like you have to have a crash of 29 if you're going to keep that sync pattern up. And
right,
what
Titanic is unsinkable. Here we are.
Right. Another sailor reference.
We're coming up on Kubrick's 100th birthday. That'll be an interesting thing to see in 3 years.
What birthday of Carl Jung would that be then? I don't know how old Carl Jung would be on Kubrick's
153.
What?
Oh, there you go. Oh,
I'm pretty sure. I gotta.
The 6 of you who care, we all loved that. Trust us, it was pretty funny. 153. That's good. There is some good grok data here talking about, can quantum computers break blockchain? Yes, basically that's what they can do. Can Bitcoin adapt? A better question. Post quantum cryptography, researchers are developing lattice-based or hash-based signatures like the XMSS or the Lamport signature. Protecting existing coins might be possible by having complete records of their existence, knowing where they were transferred. Mining and consensus might be the only ways to democratically control and have full transparency over everything. That's what blockchain's for in the first place. But I mean, does Grok think that we'll see a crash of 2029? Grok's take rather, 2029 crash is not inevitable. It hinges on unlikely quantum leap and Bitcoin failing to respond. I think that's kind of what Alex is saying, essentially, that there has to be it would have to fail to respond in Bitcoin.
I mean, if that quantum thing happened, like more than Bitcoin would be. I mean, I don't even think Bitcoin would, but like our nuclear codes, like everything would be fucked up. So, and that's would be true. Like if the SHA 256 encryption algorithm that Bitcoin uses, which actually is like a double, it's like a double algorithm. If that were broken, then like the nuclear codes would be broken too. So like that would be a worldwide crisis.
That's where we're headed, I'm pretty sure, right?
I mean, maybe
talked about. That was the ending of Silicon Valley, the show.
I was just thinking it. I was like, are a bunch of rats going to come up now? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, it's like the.
By the way, I don't know if this came through, but it will be Carl Jung's 153rd birthday on Kubrick's 100th birthday.
True.
It worked out.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I didn't really even put that together.
Do you want to like and remind people why 153 is one of our favorite for some of the first 17 integers, right? Like why do we love this number?
Well, it's one of the most mysterious numbers of all numbers.
Yeah. It's a sexy number.
Reported by multiple people. It's the the square root of 153 produces the number of full moons in a year. So like on that sense, it's like deeply intertwined with just our whole reality tunnel. But it's also referenced in the Bible, Gospel of John 2011, the catch of 153 fish. Well, everybody's like, why is it 153? Nobody really knows.
It's just fish, and then it was just saying the thing about the Vesica Pisces is encoded.
And the 17 triangular number, I think, is a major reason, right? And we're always back to 17. 17 seems so important as well. You know,
17. 17 Apollo missions.
It's the arcana of the star, which we associate with Sirius. And it's funny because the dog Sirius, that was the only dog killed on 9/11. You know that they had that whole memorial thing for, like, the dog's name was Sirius. His number, his police dog number, like he had a police number in 17. So like Sirius was his badge. The dog had a badge that was like 17. It's so weird. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we're nearly at the end of the show.
We're coming up. By the way, perfect thing though. March 7th, release new movie coming out. What's it called? Mickey 17.
Really?
Robert Pattinson, and there's like there's 17 different guys. Yeah, this is coming out.
I didn't know about this yet. Really? Mickey 17. Really? Mickey 17. You're not kidding.
And it's the guy made Bong Joon-ho who directed Stalker. So he's
The
like,
hell?
What?
You wish
That'll be great.
upon a star.
I was never, and now I am immediately. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this movie. What?
Me
This is
too. What's
crazy. This exists. I can't wait to see this. It's only 2 more days from now. Well, okay. There was another thing I wanted to succinctly Epstein as quickly as possible because what did you guys? Have you heard any thoughts about this? Like the FBI papers, a truckload of papers, and the deleting of all the
That's
documents.
what Bondi says, that there's a truckload of papers that were just delivered after those binders came out that were like redacted with like everything that was in those 200 pages I'd seen before. Like I hadn't read all of it, but I've seen those lists. I'm like, I recognize this, but before they were unredacted, now they're redacted. So it's like that seemed like a joke. That was like an FU from the FBI or from New York. But
the whole thing of like they gave it to all the little stupid right-wing influencers, and they were like parading them around. That seemed like the whole point of that. Some sort of like I don't know what you'd call it, but like
yeah,
I don't take any of those people seriously. In other words, like
don't forget she wore the dress.
Those people are complete jokes.
Yeah,
she wore the dress.
It's coming loose. The redaction is coming loose.
Yeah,
it's like hanging there. Yeah. Yeah,
it's pretty exciting stuff. Okay, so let me see. Paranoid American, what have you been up to this week, and what's going on with you? I know you've got some amazing Kickstarters that are happening simultaneously to this, and you also have. I just want to also before you even go, are you still on sale? Because I saw you are right now. Yeah. Everybody, you need to go to Paranoid American. If you haven't bought, if you have bought comic books, whatever, like you need to get the rest of the stuff right now where it's half off. He's literally got everything half off. 15 is now $7.50. 4 from 5 in some of these situations where it's like these are pretty important. So I can imagine like if you're paying $4 and you get like these cards, bro, you really need. You don't understand how much you need Paranoid American's freaking cards. Okay, the trading cards are just wildly cool, but everything he's got right now is basically
all first issues. Every single first issue of a comic is half off. I've never done any of them this low before, but I'm trying to make room in my living room and dining room for all the new comics that are about to come in at the end of this month.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, honestly, I want to see all of you spend a few $100 on comic books right now. This is the moment to do it. Get yourself copies of all the first editions. You can't go wrong with any of these things. Sorry, I know you also have some Kickstarters you should share. Plus the game. How's the game going? Let us know.
The game is going well. I'm actually been working on nonstop on just putting together all the promo that goes with the Kickstarter, but it's at satanicpanicgame.com. That'll be the next big release. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way to market this one because it's got like an adult side to it, but it also has a non-adult side. And when I say adult, I mean like very adult because that was the original scope of this game. But once I started doing all the research and all the work for it, it was like it would be a shame for this to just be some weird.
Yeah. You need a filter. You need a filter button. I mean, you know what? A lot of game companies do now is they secretly create the sexual version as a mod. And then say, someone made a mod for our game. You know,
it'll be on Steam, and then if you get it through the Kickstarter, then you'll also be able to get that little patch that will run alongside. You just copy the files over the Steam or you copy the files over whatever. I just don't want to alienate people that are there for the research part. And then they're like, what is this? You know, this
just
film.
Eyes Wide Shut. Like you go to the theater to see Eyes Wide Shut, but you're just jumping straight into the middle of the party. You know, it's kind of weird.
They keep like just fast forward into the Nicole Kidman part over and over again.
Oh, actually, that does start out that way, right?
I can't help it. I think that's going to be a wonderful game. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm going to play the uncensored version because I'm an American, and that's pretty much how I think. How about the Bavarian Illuminati comic?
This is the one that I'm waiting to show up. I just got notification this week that it's on the boat, but it'll be here in about 30 days from now.
That's exciting stuff. All right, everybody, make sure you guys are going to paranoidamerican.com because, like I said, everything's on sale and all the first editions are half off. And you got to do it. Like this is your chance to get all of his stuff. So paranoidamerican.com, and then also MK Ultra Sound 723. David Plate's research and his synchronistic work is all right here. Click on highlights. You know.
Can you scroll down just a little bit to the video that I just made recently?
Is it in highlights or in posts? Regular posts?
Yeah. It's in regular. If you go down, you should see. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep it on. Keep it. Oh, that
Keep
one.
on,
Okay.
keep it on?
See
Okay,
that one
alright.
right there. See that video? Oh, not that one. The one. Oh yeah, that one. But below it, the first comment. So not that comment, because that's actually the third comment, even though it's showing it right below it. Yeah, that one that says BAFTA.
Okay.
So I did
Okay.
BAFTA and the Oscars. I hope we don't get a copyright issue for this, but
You never know.
It's so funny. If they take out the sound from it, you gotta just play the clip if you could. It's like I think it's 2 minutes.
With sound? Okay, hold on, I can do it.
Can we do that?
I mean, we're gonna get blocked for 2 weeks anyway. We might as well enjoy ourselves here.
Okay. All right. Well, you got sound? You don't have sound.
Is it working? Yeah, okay.
There's no sound, yeah.
Really? You're not hearing the sound? Okay.
Not
hold on.
hearing sound, yeah, sorry.
Let me try it. All right, take two. Let's try that one more time. And then we're good? Sound now?
Yeah, please.
I freaking love Substance, as I love that movie.
And the BAFTA goes to
This is my dream. As a
Mikey Madison.
Ooh, your family.
So real. So real. I have to point out that we have 237 people watching alone on X right now out of the 492. That's pretty cool.
Wow, I really wasn't expecting this. I probably should have listened to my publicist and wrote a speech or something. Thank you so much, Sean Baker. I just adore you. You are an incredible person. I know you don't like it when I praise you, but I have to just for a second. You're so wonderful. You literally made my dreams come
wanna see some
true.
Jurassic fitness?
Sammy Kwan, you are one of the kindest people I've ever met. And my rock during thank you, Kira Bruce. The most incredible, sweetheart, kindest person. Thank you for always being there for me, gluing me back together every single day, literally with like medical glue. Thank you, Mark. You are so wonderful. You injected our film with so much humor, and you're lovely. I want to thank my mom. She's not here, but she has literally hundreds of auditions. So many tape she's my favorite senior, so I love you. And to my fellow nominees, I'm just so in awe of all of you. You just gave beautiful performances, and really the highlight of all of this has just been
Good.
Yeah, gosh, I don't know. There's so many people that I'm probably forgetting to
Say it!
I do want to just take a moment to recognize the sex worker community.
Beauty secret.
You deserve respect and human decency. I will always be a friend and an ally, and I implore others to do the same. Thank you so much, Bafta, for this.
Oh my god!
Sorry, thank you for indulging me. Yeah, no, I was laughing my ass off when I was putting that together. I got one for the Oscar and one for the BAFTA, so there's two different versions. But no, I like it when she's saying like say it, just say it, because there's the other with the Oscar one it worked out. So she's saying like people to thank or whatever, and then it's showing Demi Moore there, and she's just all like, "Oh, that's nice," you know. But yeah, no, if you know the movie, it just screams of like she's watching her other self accept the award and pissed off. It's pretty good.
My god. All right. Well, make sure you guys go to cryptocryptology.com. Check out all of Alex's amazing work. There's just so much of it. I want to make sure that you guys are getting that in your time. And then also to Cryptocryptology's CryptoK on X. You can make sure that you check out his work in the real time as he's posting. There's always new work here. I'm a huge fan, if you didn't know. And hey, just in case you don't get to see us on YouTube for a couple weeks, come to X, subscribe to me. We'll put this up on Rumble. We love you so much. Thank you for being here. You know, something like that, I guess. Yeah. All right. Talk to you guys later. Wait, where's the button? I'm trying so hard here. Oh, there it is. Bye.